Guys, we're live. This is the Round Table Podcast and the Hangout, I guess you'd say. And we're going to be discussing some herbivore topics and suicide uh, issues as well. I don't know where Mangus ended up at. Did he take off?
I'm not sure. I'm just chilling here playing a like an arcade game.
Yeah, I see.
Old school.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where everybody went. That happened to me last week. Nobody showed up. Ended up having to talk.
Oh shit, dude.
Yeah. I talked for like an hour, and I was going to have a 2 hour long deal, and then I talked for an hour and then just quit.
All right. Well, just fuck it. We'll just talk. Like suicide, like to me, suicide was like a rage on the inside. And it was like there's no good way to express it other than to do something stupid, like put your life in danger.
Well, the problem that we had here that we were discussing last week is the culture is set up in a way where men don't have any of the power in the relationship, and if they get divorced, they end up not being able to get the kids. They really have no power in the relationship. They don't really have any power in America either in the relationship. So it tends to be a problem for them because you don't really, you're not really able to be part of society. Really, you're just kind of like a workhorse. You're kind of a slave, and you really have no way to be a productive person in society. You know, and here in Japan, some of the problems that we've got is the I was talking in my video a couple days ago about the suicide rates here are the average is around 70 to 100 per day right now, and that's been for quite a few years now. And I had another friend that told me he was teaching a class, and he had a Japanese student that came up and talked about the suicide rates in Japan, and also said he finished it with saying that every year there, if you took all the bodies from the people who died in 1 year from suicide, it would make a 300-meter high pile. I wonder what happened to Magnus.
I'm not 100% sure. I know he was drinking coffee earlier. I had some coffee too. I'm not usually a coffee drinker, but I do use it to wake myself up if I need to wake up.
Yeah. Yeah, he was wanting to go into further detail about the herbivore phenomenon here and everything.
Oh yeah, the herbivore, man. That's an interesting cultural shift. It was a power grab, in my opinion, because it's all about power. Like people are just stealing from each other, right? So it's no.
The thing we got going on here is the women started in 1970 or so to take advantage of men and use them as kind of like an ATM machine. And that's where our hostess culture came from. We were able to allow women to marry or to use men to get what they wanted. And by doing that, they were able to extract wealth and extract money from them. And then kids grew up and seen this dichotomy in the way the family dynamic was working and realized they didn't want to be part of that. And they might have had friends they had in school or in college that got married, and they seen the same things happen to their friend. So they realized very quickly that they don't want to be part of that, and they just decide not to have a girlfriend and not to have kids, and that has came to a head now, to where the average right now is 70% are herbivore men, mainly because they don't want anything to do with women.
Well, wasn't it because the working man in Japan was like working themselves to death, like they just drink sake like crazy, and am I accurate, or
Well, they still do that now.
they still do it now? It's
Yeah.
just that the herbivore man has chosen to back off.
Yeah, it's just all the herbivore phenomenon is just stepping away from women. You know,
Yeah.
that's really all it's about. They don't want anything to do with women anymore, and they're saying they did some studies where they found out that from ages 16 to 24, 64% of men didn't want anything to do with sex or women, and 33% of women didn't want anything to do with sex or men. So you have entire generations growing up here now that don't even want to have a sexual relationship with anyone. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're more or less asexual.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where the MGTOW monk thing came from, because they were like, well, what do we call ourselves?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just like, I personally backed away from women like a while back, just because they were giving me a lot of psychological extra issues that I didn't need. Um, and it's just it's kind of caused my world to spin for a little while, and I'm pulling myself out of that spin now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
So
stopped. I stopped dating in the U.S. in January of 2013. So it's been two, almost 3 years since I've dated anybody.
yeah, it's been like at least 4 now for me,
Yeah.
coming up on 4 as soon as this next year hits.
I just don't see the point. For me, it's just chances are the biggest problem is you're expected to give up everything that is important to you in your life if you start being with a woman. you know you only end up
Yeah, you abandon all your friends.
yeah
You
they ask
abandon
you
everything you know.
yeah they ask you to basically give up everything that you love and everything that you care about for them, and you can't even have your own friends. You can't do anything unless you ask them first, and you have to act like everything in your life that was important before you met them is not important anymore at all.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's there's no escaping actual reality. Even if you can believe in a fantasy.
The only escape is religion and Scientology.
Oh, religion. Mm.
Yeah. Religion.
That's like a form of hypnosis.
Yeah, religion and Scientology. It's like the only two ways to get around it. Mormonism. Those people are pretty crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, you wonder what happened? Crossing ways left, and so did Angus.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Odd.
Might pull up here and see.
Yeah. Like the only time I can remember, like, suicidal thoughts. I guess reckless driving must be suicidal in some cases. I don't know. Suicide's bad. Suicide's bad, kids. Don't feel depressed. Don't feel bad about yourselves. Feel good about yourselves as much as possible. And I know that's like horrible advice.
That's hard to do nowadays with the way.
But it's still the accurate message, even though I'm saying that horribly. But I've had experiences where I wanted to drive too fast, or maybe drive into a big truck or something. But don't do that; you'll die.
Yeah.
You don't want to die.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to self-terminate. Actually, is what you experience.
Yeah, it can be for some people.
Mm-hmm.
What I find a lot in my life is that most of the people that try to commit suicide don't really try very hard, and they do it because they're wanting attention. They just want somebody to like acknowledge that they're there, you know.
Yep. That their problems mean something.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody has problems and nobody has time for each other anymore, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, I mean, some people are there for each other. Like, I don't know. I know some weird. I know I know what life is like from my circumstances, and I know everybody's circumstances are different. So I know what life is like from my circumstances, and I attempt to make the most of it every single time. Every single day I'm on the earth, I'm like, what can I do to maximize this day? You know, even if it just means exercising.
Yeah.
And cooking a meal. And maybe moving a few things around in my room or something. So, yeah, I need to go like street surfing more. I need to take my board out and just go look around more.
Yeah, I've got into a thing now where I'm a little bit depressed. I got a lot of problems going on here in Japan, trying to get my visa situated and stuff. I've been kind of staying in my house, not really going out and doing anything. And I've been here now for 10 months, and I really don't go out and do very much. I have a few friends that sometimes I'll go see, but I don't really do a lot.
Yeah, I think like some kind of a bicycle with a motor on it would be perfect.
Yeah.
So that's going to be my next setup.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get this part-time job so I can afford to buy that.
Yeah, I had one of those in America.
Driving my car seems to be too expensive these days. Because an old like a 90s you know, kind of a sporty car. It was like a mainstream sporty car or something, like a mid-range. Like a mid 90s with not a lot of miles on it. I mean, it's fun to drive, but it is, you know, it is like driving a very small truck.
Yeah.
Gas wise. So, you know, it does add up.
I had one.
I'm not pulling in a ton of money. I'm just not.
Yeah. I had one here or in America. I brought the bike, but I didn't bring all the motor and stuff. But I had paid around $300 on a site called bikeberry.com, and I'd got a motor and all like a bunch of high performance stuff and a pull starter and all kinds of shit, and spent about $300 maybe $400 on the motors and everything, and got my bike running and got about 100 miles to the gallon. That's pretty cool. I got a bigger gas tank. I had a 3/4 of a gallon gas tank on my bike. I got a big gas tank on it. It was pretty cool. I had a stainless steel gas tank and a high performance muffler, exhaust system, and all kinds of stuff. It was pretty cool. It was the motor broke though. It was one of these Chinese motors. Didn't last very long.
Yeah, I try to avoid Chinese products now.
Yeah.
Because of that reason.
Yeah.
I'm actually, but even though as I speak, I'm on a headset that's made in China.
Yeah.
So.
Welcome back.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back, man. Yeah. Yeah, Mangus just came on and then he left again. Now he's back.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all just having fun here. We're the cool kids.
Yeah.
So what's the topic of discussion?
We're doing herbivore men, suicide, and whatever else anybody wants to talk about. MRA. You know?
Well, I have a good insight on depression and suicide.
Cool. Take off.
Last year, a little bit more than a year now, I started testosterone treatment. Well, I found out that I was low in testosterone probably for many years, and I was not getting treatment because the government-run healthcare system in Canada is not the most innovative or even the most. They're extremely conservative, but they're totally fine in prescribing, like these crazy pills that have lots of side effects.
Yeah, we have the same problem here.
Oh, they'll give me estrogen for like hardly any money. Like, if I wanted to give them like $15, I could get like a fix of estrogen for like a month.
Yeah, but why would you want estrogen? That's usually the problem with guys is they have too much estrogen, and that's why they get fat and they want to die.
I know. I'm just pointing out that it's easy access for that chemical.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You're right.
How interesting.
Yeah. Women get almost all of the hormone replacement therapy. Men get almost none.
Yeah.
Yeah, and tell me we're not a man-hating society?
That's because men aren't the victims.
Right. So I've had a total life change in the past year. I don't know, it's almost like being cured of cancer. That's how revolutionary it was for me.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm aware of the testosterone thing.
Yeah. So now I'm going to the gym almost every day, and I'm in better shape than I was when I was. Well, I'm pretty much in the shape I was when I was 20, when I was working at a grocery store. I'm 36 now.
Yeah.
Well, now I think a lot of the problem that guys tend to deal with as far as that stuff goes is it's sort of an identity crisis, I mean, feminism started up, in like the mid-late 60s, and then, it started becoming like a mortal sin to be a man just over, the 20, 30-something, 40 years in between.
Yeah.
Yes. So now I get I was always getting hit on by girls, but now it's all the time. So I'm like, oh my God, man. So anyway, yeah, this stuff is extremely powerful. You should do it under doctor's supervision, which I am, but I definitely recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, typically you'll probably end up finding out that the women are into you because they see that you have a nice body, which means you're probably you have some kind of a upper scale life.
Yes.
You're able to afford that, and that gets the leeches to come try to attach to you.
Oh yes.
Definitely. Back in the olden golden days, a fatter man was sort of a sign of wealth, and you could afford to eat good. Now it's gotten to the point where it's kind of flipped the script, and you have to be able to afford to be fit.
Yep.
Yes.
Is what it is.
Well, a fat man could afford to eat at like McDonald's every day, so that doesn't always mean he's got money.
Well, it means he'll die sooner too. So when he dies sooner, she'll get his money faster.
Yeah, back in the day, he was able to, if he had food and he was overweight, that meant he had money. which, you know, now that's not the case. You know, just because you have food to eat doesn't mean
Uh-huh.
you have money.
Yep.
Mhm.
Might mean you're on welfare, food stamps.
Oh, but you know, I saw that, you know, women say they're not into money. Even the girls that say that, they're the most expensive ones you can find. They're bullshitters. They're the liars.
Yeah.
That's been my experience, and a lot of other guys' experience too. I mean, it's hard to, you know, knock that stuff. So anyway, yep.
I was talking to somebody about it. I was talking to somebody about it last night, and see, the biggest problem is, you know, with modern society and feminism is they've been fighting gung ho, tooth and nail to create all these crappy laws that give men a bunch of shit, and you know, the bulk of the women wouldn't have really gone along with it, except for the fact, oh, well, there's a new law that says, you know, we can divorce a man and you know, not be at fault for, oh, okay, and they just kind of went along with it, and they're only just now realizing that men are like, fuck that shit, and now they're like, wait a minute, they're kind of backpedaling on themselves a little bit.
Yep.
Seems to be what the biggest problem is. We were talking about that last night in the hangout.
Yeah, I think a lot of the problems that we're having here in Japan have to do with the culture that we have here. That's not even really a feminist culture. It's just like,
You're like a lost culture, it seems like.
well, it's like women just don't see. It's really hard for them to see where men are coming from. That we have some huge issues that are affecting society, and they're actually almost destroying their own society here, and they just don't want to change anything. They don't want to. They don't want to try and change anything. They just want to let it
Well,
continue on like it is.
well, that's exactly, it goes along with what I was saying. It benefits them in some way, and they don't realize what it's doing, hurting men. So, you know, if it's not hurting them, why would they care?
Yeah.
They don't realize that it's doing more damage than anything else.
Yeah, Japan. When I was there, it seemed like a strange conservative culture. Not as conservative as Korea, but they had the Americanization going on. But Korea was total straight cut everybody. You know.
Yeah, I've talked a lot about the kids here are raised to be very stoic, and they don't really teach the kids to have any fun. You know,
Yeah.
they're not really into tickling the children. They're supposed to be raised to be very kind of go along with everybody else. Don't have your own mind, and listen to what you're. You know, like I was talking about with the school. You know, listen to what you're told and do what you're told, and don't have your own mind. If you have anything to say about anything, you should not say it unless somebody asks you to tell
Yeah.
them. You know, and so they're raised like that to where they're not allowed to be themselves or to have their own mind, which is it's becoming a problem here because we have a lot of problem now with innovation. A lot of the problems that we're having with vehicles and you know, Sony TVs and computers and all the Japanese products that are made here now. A lot of the problems that we're having and the reason why we aren't as inventive and innovative as we were back in the 70s and 80s is because of this culture. It's actually stifling progress because the people can't they can't sit in a boardroom with like 15 other people and spitball ideas on making things better, because what will happen is all of them will have the same idea and
Yeah, that's
they'll kind
true.
of all pat themselves on the back.
Yay, we all thought of the exact same thing. Aren't we so smart?
Exactly, and that's kind of where they go, and because that is the case, they end up having a lot of problems. They They have a lot of issues with coming, not really finding like solutions to the problem. They just make more problems, you know.
Mm, that's really weird, eh? I
Yeah.
mean, okay, I read that Japanese people were not always industrious and productive, and and all these other things we know about Japan now, or we think we know. I read that before the Americans came and industrialized. I mean, like, they took over and they occupied them for years. That they were lazy. They were a whole bunch of shit. Like it was like the Japanese didn't understand the Americans, and the Americans didn't understand the Japanese.
Yeah, they were like that pre World War One and World War Two. Actually,
Yeah.
they were just, well. That's the thing with here. Even now, like I have like a kerosene heater, and my stove in my downstairs is like a camping stove and stuff. This is their society. It's been this way for many years, hundreds of years, even thousands, where
They
they
still
just
use
have like,
kerosene.
yeah,
Holy Christ.
yeah, where they have um, this idea of like camping, is their kind of their life, and it's hard for them to like think of I don't know, like society in a way where we're actually progressing towards something, and back then they just kind of lived life. A lot of them didn't even work. They didn't have to, they
Hmm.
might trade or barter, or things like
Yes.
that. And they might make things like sandals or tatami mats for the houses, or they might do something. And what they would do is they would trade. They would trade a bag of rice for something. So they really didn't. It was kind of a nice society. They didn't have to work. And it wasn't that they were lazy. It's that they didn't have to work.
Yeah. But
So
then some.
once America came over here and
Hmm.
bombed them, they
Some.
had to work, you know,
Yeah.
and they didn't really want to. So at first they really didn't. They had a hard time doing it, but towards the end of the '60s, they started getting very industrious
Mm.
and kind of becoming the exact opposite of what they were in the 1920s.
Well, did they have public school there, like for a long time, or did that coincide with that productivity increase?
Yeah, the public schools they've only been around since like the '50s or '60s.
Yeah.
You know,
So that could have something to do with it. And I'm sure those schools were heavily Americanized, and that's public
yeah,
schooling is a Marxist tenet too. So all these things come together.
yeah. Well, the thing is like if you go to public school here in Japan, you really don't have much of a life. You're not really going to have much of a life. Um, the what you want to do is be able to send your kids to a private school,
Hmm.
and if you do that, it costs uh, in in some of the better cases, it costs around $10,000 a year.
You mean
And
like a hog one, like a private school?
yeah, and that would be something like from first grade all the way up through high school. And if you
Oh
do
my
that,
God.
that'll allow them to easily get into places like Tokyo University. And if you can go to
Ugh.
Tokyo University, you can be something here in Japan. That's like having a monogram of Harvard or Princeton or
Yeah.
Yale or Stanford. You know,
Now, I'm sure that university experience is that where they try to hook up with some chick that's gonna set him straight and gonna have kids and then she's gonna make something out of him and then she's gonna destroy him.
usually in Japan that happens before they get to college. You know,
Oh,
yeah. So usually, if it doesn't happen before they get to college, it will happen after they get out of college.
like from my experience, especially the feminists here, they think they know how the whole world works. They're so clever and so smart. These people here, especially the manginas too, they know everything about the whole world. Everybody
Yeah,
peaceful. Everybody gets together. No, that's not true at all. And in
yeah.
Japan, you know, I'm sure. I,
Oh, you guys would get a kick out of it. I had a feminist yesterday just took one look at my profile on Twitter, it doesn't even say anything. It's just a picture of me, and obviously I'm uneducated and don't know shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm just laughing because it's like, bitch, if you had any clue about me, you would totally just shit your pants. Because I may speak in an uneducated fashion, I may dress the part, but I could surprise the fucking hell out of you a lot.
Yeah, that's one reason why I get a lot of people that get on my page and tell me things about education and things like that. And I actually have worked my whole career to try to not sound pompous, you know, in the way I speak and the way I talk to my students. I try to sound like somebody that they can talk to. You know, I don't like to sound like somebody that's read 50,000 books, you know. So that's kind of why I have this, you know, these here, because when I'm doing my videos and those are in the background, I still get people that are like, "You're an idiot, you're a dumbass, and you don't know what you're talking about." Blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I always tell them like smart aleckly, "Oh, thanks for telling me that. I'll make sure I tell my my second year bachelor's degree students in psychology class that tomorrow." You know. You know.
Well, it's official. Somebody on the internet said I'm a dumbass, so I'm a dumbass.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, I'm a dumbass. That's why I've got two PhDs right here. You know?
And a lot of these people don't realize they are being they're the victim of a psychological experiment, or they're being played. They think that they're, you know, they think we're so dumb because, you know, that's what I try to do with some people anyway. I try to, you know, they you know, I get an idea of what they think I am, so I kind of play the dumb. I kind of play the part, just to give them that satisfaction at the end, and then I blow it right up their ass.
Yep, I do the same thing. I love to just let them talk, because usually what they'll do is talk themselves into a corner, especially feminists. You know, because that's the best thing you can do to them. Like I'm really good at like starting conversations because I'm a psychologist, so I'm really good at like saying something to a bunch of women that will get them to start squawking like chickens, you know.
Yes.
And then you just let them go, and they'll just say so much fucking bullshit that you can just sit back and talk for 10 hours on it. Because most of the shit they talk about is like WikiLink bullshit.
Yeah,
it's like it doesn't have any facts. There's nothing backing it up. It's all crap.
And the funniest thing about the internet, it gives them the opportunity to smart off to you, tell you how stupid they think you are, and then block you so that you can't prove them wrong, that you can't blow their oars straight out of the fucking water.
Yes.
That's the thing I love to do, though. I have so many girls that have blocked me because I would they'll come on one of my videos and they'll start talking about something I've done or something I've said, and they'll try to tell me how they know better. So I'll point them to some statistics, some facts, and they'll try to say like, well, "Where'd you get those facts from?" So I'll give them all the facts and all the statistics, and they'll start to realize that I know a lot more than I'm letting on. And once they realize like I know what I'm talking about, then they'll start attacking me as a person, because they do the Fox News thing, where if they can't make your ideas look bad, then they have to attack the person themselves, and then they block you after they've said something. You know, after they'll say something like "You don't know what you're talking about, you're stupid," blah, blah, and then they'll block you. You know, and it's just they revert to this, from this intellectual person that really isn't intellectual at all, to like a 6-year-old kid. You know.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you may be smart, but you're a duty head, block.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like talking to Donald Trump, you know.
Yeah, and you know, I noticed that when I started university, I kind of got like an impression like the professors were trying to be assholes too, and maybe some of them are, but you know, it's also a case of inferiority or superiority complex, right? Too, and I find that there's a lot of people that are that are very insecure in themselves, so they try to project that insecurity onto you.
Well, here's something I'll throw out to you guys to talk about. Um, this is something that I see in my field a lot of study and teaching. There's these girls that join the STEM fields, and even the music classes that I teach. They tend to join these fields, and they kind of like don't really study, and they try to get some guy in the class to be their boyfriend, so
Oh
that they
yeah.
can cheat off of him.
Yes.
And usually what ends up happening is these girls will get out of college and they will try to get hired on someplace, and they don't actually have any knowledge because they cheated their way through the class. And they're kind of like these parasites to the STEM fields, because they're not really interested in STEM, but they know they can make good money, and they might be able to find a boyfriend that's in the STEM field that they can marry, and then they can have a STEM field husband, and they can say they have a STEM field degree, but most of them come out of the STEM field with very poor scores. And in many cases, what I've seen when I'm teaching is these girls will actually copy down what somebody else that was sitting next to them put on their paper, word for word.
Hmm.
They don't even change it at all, you know. And it
Oh,
tells
and I can really make you guys laugh because my youngest sister, I come from a family of 4 kids.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm the one who's the sort of the diamond in the rough type compared to my other siblings. I got one that's a Republican politician, county commissioner, runs his own gun shop. That's my older brother. Then I've got I'm a truck driver, of course. My pictures makes it pretty obvious. And then my 2 younger sisters, the oldest one is a registered emergency room nurse, and the youngest has a PhD in microbiology and teaches biology in college.
Mhm.
Wow.
Now, and that's what makes it so funny having a conversation with these feminists, because I can look them dead in the face and say, oh yeah, my mom said flat out she is so proud of my younger sister because she's showing these girls that you can be smart and get a STEM field degree and still be a feminine woman.
Yep.
That's my
Yeah.
mom's exact fucking words. And that's what makes it so hilarious, is because they'll just give you this kind of duh look when you tell them that. And
Yeah.
it's like, and it's like they don't realize that I may be a truck driver, but I come from a family of intelligent people. I can keep up in conversations with my younger sister, and I can even talk to her and say, well, hey, now I heard such and such. I'm not sure if I believe it. What do you know about it?
Yeah. Well,
Oh
that's the
man.
And
thing.
I
A
can
lot of
actually,
feminists will point to people like your sister and say, "See, we're smart. We can all do that." And the fact is, uh, there's there's a there's some studies that we've done in psychology where we can take a male baby in a crib and a female baby in a crib, and we can put something mechanical on a table next to them, and we can put something like a bear or a Barbie doll or something like that next to them. And even at like 2 months old, a male baby is drawn to the mechanical, and the female
Yes.
baby is drawn to the something that's just like a toy.
And
You
of
know,
course, there's
they're
there's
just
exceptions, right?
yeah. There is exceptions, but the thing is the way the feminists work
Yeah.
is they say we can all do it. We can all be Ronda Rousey.
Yes.
You know, and they don't realize it takes a lot of work to do that. And where there
Yeah.
is women that go through the STEM fields and learn and can be very very good at their fields, there's also ones that lie their way through the field and get a career and still siphon off everybody else. And if somebody tries to make them look bad because they're stupid and they don't actually know what they're talking about, they can actually say that that person tried to sexually harass them at work. You know, and they do things like this, and they become these kind of like vindictive little cunts where they want to talk about safe spaces. You know.
they want to be safe from outside criticism that might make them feel bad. That's the only thing. And they're not realized now. Now I'm going to bring up a study that I saw that you might know something about. But before I do that, they don't want for anybody to. They want these safe spaces so that nobody can point out you're wrong and this is why, and then give them the rundown, and then they feel bad because they're uneducated or they don't actually know what they're talking about. But the study I was going to bring up,
I used to always tell my students about, when I would talk about those safe spaces, I would tell them about the Red Rover and like hide and seek thing where they had the safe area. It's like telling somebody something really stupid and then running to the safe area so that they can't tell you anything. That's basically all it is.
Exactly. Well, now the study that I saw a long time ago, I'm trying to remember, it was on some news show back when news shows actually showed you something worth seeing. But the study that I saw it was showing like, little boys and little girls, they put them behind like a transparent barrier to where they could see their mother, but they couldn't get to her through the barrier. And with maybe one or two exceptions in all those cases, they showed that the little boy would run up and try to knock down the barrier to get to his mom, and the majority of the little girls would run into the barrier and they would just sit down and cry.
Yeah.
And they maybe had one or two boys and one or two girls that did the exact opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, like I say, the amount of people who the amount of women that are good at STEM fields and fields of expertise, like say auto mechanics or welding or something that would definitely be a man's area, is like 1 in 1,000. It's very rare. But they'll grab a hold of those people and they'll say all women are able to do that. And it's not the point that you're able to do it. It's the point of, do you want to do it? I may be able.
I believe is the best way to put it.
I may be able, because I have a PhD, to go back to college and become an astronaut. But do I want to? No, I don't want to be an astronaut. So I mean, just because there's somebody who's a male who is an astronaut doesn't mean I can be an astronaut. But that's how these women really think. They really think that, like, well, there's like, these women that have done something amazing in their life, and we can all do that, And the fact is you can if you're willing to do the work, and most women aren't willing to do that work.
Yeah, sorry. Somebody decided to message me. I apologize about that. But no, that's just it. My mom, I've told you guys in a couple of situations, my mom was a feminist back in the 70s, but while she was fighting for the equal pay and equal opportunity, it was because at the time she was already doing man work. She was driving a dump truck for my grandfather's farm. She was shoveling shit out of horse stalls, digging and planting gardens, all the shit that the men would do.
Right.
She's paying the price for it now physically, but she did that work. I mean, I very fondly remember her driving my ass to daycare in a big blue fucking Ford dump truck that she was going to be driving for the rest of the damn day.
Yeah.
So that's
cool.
Well, that was it though. That she had a reason to want that, was because she was already doing it. She just wanted the recognition and the pay for the work she was doing, which I've got no problem with that.
Yeah.
That's how I learned not to underestimate anybody just based on male, female, black, white, up, down, sideways, whatever. It was, I saw that it wasn't a bunch of bullshit that women could do the thing. It was just that too many women were like they'll go into these colleges and get these worthless ass gender studies degrees, and then bitch about not enough women in STEM, and it's like, well, bitch, you went and got a stupid ass gender studies degree. Why didn't you go into a STEM field? Why didn't you get a degree in that?
Well,
Yeah.
that's not to say that STEM fields are the panacea whatsoever, especially in Canada, United States. From what I see is a lot of the cliche is they say your degree is not what it was anymore, and they're right, it isn't, because there's a lot of external dynamics going on, outsourcing, foreign labor, things like that wasn't really there 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, and they act like STEM is the be-all, end-all. Well, what
Yeah.
the fuck would they do if I hadn't decided I'd rather be a truck driver and deliver the product they need to do that shit?
Yeah.
Right.
Like I was talking about in the last one that we had, that last live hangout, the thing that they don't like to talk about is that every accomplishment that a woman has ever made in society has been because of men. You know, the things that they've built, the things that they've made, the things they used to make those things were made by men. You know, like I was talking about the woman who made Kevlar. It took her 20 years to make Kevlar so that we had
Bulletproof vests.
bulletproof vests. That woman that made that, all the machinery that she used to make that with was made by men. If men didn't make that machinery, she would have never made Kevlar. So the fact is, most of the things that they've used to make what they make or what they've advanced in society is only because of men. If they didn't have men, they wouldn't even be able to make any of it. You know?
Well, that's like that feminist Camille Paglia saying that, if we would have been living under a matriarchy, we'd still be living in grass huts. The patriarchy built everything we have, and in a way, she's right. I mean, they had that. It was like almost like Survivor. It's like a Swedish version of Survivor, where they got a whole bunch of men and a whole bunch of women on an island, on separate islands, and the men had practically built their own little paradise, and all the women were doing was laying around sunbathing, not really doing any damn thing.
Yeah.
I keep sending out a video of Bear Grylls. He did a thing not too long ago with like 25 feminists. They put them on a desert island, and they were having to get their own water and find their own food and find their own shelter and do this stuff. They were working in groups, and I don't know if you've ever seen like 10 feminists work in a group together. It's pretty funny.
Oh, that's a fucking nightmare. I don't even have to see it. That's just a fucking nightmare just in my own mind.
It was hilarious, man. There was stuff that you would never see with guys. There was actually women that were walking around in a circle on an island the size of like 1/10 the size of Manhattan, and they kept walking in a circle and they couldn't find their way back to the beach where they were going to meet up with the other people to get water, and they were sitting down in the forest crying, because and somebody was like wanting to be in charge, so they was like, I'm in charge, and then everybody started following them, and they were all like proud. They were like, I'm going to get us back to the beach, and then they ended up at the same beach that they started from, so they were like half a kilometer away from where they were supposed to be, and they just went in a big circle, and then they did it like in 2 days or something. They did it like 4 times. They ended up back on the same beach. I don't know how they kept going in circles, but they were on an island, like I say, an island that was like 1/10 the size of Manhattan, and they kept going in circles and couldn't even find their way back to the beach.
But then somebody like me, who I drive a truck, so I kind of have to have an idea how to get out of those kind of situations. I would have been like, well, we were on the beach on that side, so we'll just circle around until we hit that spot where we're where our stuff is, and we would have found our way back. But like I have to do that a lot. Just take a wild guess about oh shit, I just missed that turn. Then I have to logically think about, okay, well, if I take this street and go this way and then do this way, theoretically I should wind up exactly back where I need to be, and I'm always right.
Yeah, that's the problem, like I say, with the feminist mind, with the way a woman's mind works. It just doesn't think that way. They don't think that way about anything. So like for us, what we would have done is we would have been on the beach and we would said, okay, we got to get back to this other part of the beach, and it's over here on this side of the island. So let's just walk down the beach, you know, and we can just kind of follow the water line and we'll get back to the beach really easy. They decided to walk through the forest where they have no compass or anything, and they just decided to walk through the forest, and they kept walking in circles, you know.
Well, and the funny thing I've noticed about leadership in a lot of the groups I've been in, it's usually there might be sort of an accepted leader, but it's whoever, you know, comes up with the most logical sounding thing to do at any given moment. You know, that's the guy that everybody's just going to listen to because, well, yeah, it sounds like a good thing to do. We'll try that.
Yeah, that's the thing with feminists is they all have this idea that they're really good, but what they are is really good at mediocrity. You know, they have nothing to offer really, and they just have this idea that I'm really good at nothing really, and they'll get in a group like this with 10 other women, and it's kind of like they're all chiefs and nobody's an Indian, and if they are an Indian, they're reluctant Indians. You know, like they do the thing where it's kind of not like if you get with a bunch of guys and somebody says like, hey, I think I can get us there. We go, okay, let's go. They're kind of like, okay, show me. You know, kind of like a smart ass, kind of like, okay, you go ahead and lead. And then they wait, just like they do in a relationship, they wait for them to make a mistake so they can call them out on it. You know, which puts you in a bad situation right from the get-go because you start thinking like, I'm going to have issues here. You know, that if I do anything wrong, if I make any mistakes, that they're going to call me out on it. And then you're going to make a mistake because that's what you're thinking about instead of thinking about what you need to be thinking about. And that's you know, that's the way the feminist mindset goes, you know.
Well, and that's just it. You know, it's like, you know, the feminist mindset, they don't realize that leadership kind of requires that you put aside your own personal pride and think about the good of the group and not just, you know, and with guys, it's not, oh, well, we were successful, so that was all my thing. It was, no, it was, you know, yeah, I had the idea, but then everybody else had to carry out the idea. They don't realize this, and so that's why most of feminism's problems are, they are the cause of their own misfortune, as it is.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, like I said, you know, with guys, it's all about, you know, okay, I have to put aside my own personal pride because we've got to do X, Y, and Z, and if the group doesn't do X, Y, and Z, well, you know, the thing's not going to get done, and that's just going to make it more difficult the next day when you have to try to do it then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
What
are women are I don't know if you guys want to slightly go off a different tangent, but the social structure, like the divorce system in Japan, what's it like there?
That's the problem that we have here. Really, men kind of stay with women no matter what, and they're like my ex-wife ended up sleeping with a guy while she was still with me, and he was a doctor, and he had a wife that wanted to get divorced, and they didn't have kids together, and he wouldn't divorce her, and she was sleeping with other guys, and he knew it, and he came home one night, and he was such a white knight simp pussy that he came home and his wife was fucking somebody in the living room, and he just went to bed. You know.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah, they just have no sense in Japan of kind of like when it comes to society, there's a sense of respect, but when it comes to a relationship or a marriage, there is none. There's like you don't really respect your wife, and your wife doesn't respect you, and the kids don't respect the husband. They only respect the mom. You know, and it's really it's all, that's the thing. A lot of people think that Japan is a very respectful society and they're very nice to everybody, but it's all
Mm,
just it's words. It's not an action. They don't actually
mm.
do anything. They just say things. You know, just because I say, "Oh, thank you," and blah 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 to you all the time doesn't mean that I actually am a nice person. It just means I said something nice to you. And that's the way we are here in Japan, is we got a lot of women who are married and a lot of people that have this idea that um, I just have to be nice, and that means that I'm nice, you know,
Saving
when in
face,
fact they're
yeah.
bitches, you know, they're horrible people. But they, like, you may, in Japan, they have this really weird thing where you may have somebody that's your friend, and they may have been your friend for 20 years, but they really hate your guts. They don't even like you. But they just put on these airs every time you're around, and they make you feel like they care about you. But it's all words. They don't really like you at all. They just do it because they have to do it.
Mm.
That's interesting.
Well, I don't
It's
know
like
if,
ultra PC.
Yeah.
yeah. I
That's the
mean,
other thing too, is you'll end up being talked about behind your back a lot. You know,
Hmm.
and like that's something I noticed a long time ago when I was what my kids called me Mapa. So I used to take my kids to daycare, and because I was taking care of the kids and my wife wasn't, she was working. I ended up hearing all the stuff from the moms, you know, and I was able to speak in Japanese, so I was able to listen to their conversations, and they would talk about other moms really badly, like she had a bad purse and she wasn't wearing nice clothes and she came from this thing and she went to this school and she doesn't even have a
well,
college education, and they'd say all this really horrible shit about them, and they, me being a foreigner, they thought I didn't know what they were talking about, but I did, and I couldn't believe the shit they were saying. But that's how they are here. But when that person is around, I would see the way they would talk to him. They would talk to him like it was really, they were really nice people. And as soon as that person left, they would start talking about them behind their back, and they were just
well,
really
that seems to be where the way
backstabbing.
it is almost everywhere I've been. I mean, it just seems kind of maybe like human nature. I mean, as long as you're not, deliberately trying to ruin their lives behind their back. I mean, it's just kind of like maybe it's just like a subconscious comparison of yourself compared to others, just to see what it's just like an animal instinct kind of.
Yeah. Well,
Well, I don't see anything wrong with that kind of behavior. I mean, I do it myself. I cut myself. I criticize myself too. It's just. I think it's just a byproduct of an analytical or critical mind. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with it.
well, the problem that we have here because of that is uh, children. These mothers will actually blame things that they think that the mothers have done or whatever on the
Mm,
kids, and they'll tell this stuff while they're standing with their children, and then their children will actually end up bullying kids at school, and the parents, the mother will tell this other kid that mom doesn't have as much money as us,
oh yeah, oh
and
yeah,
she dressed her kids in these kind of clothes, and those clothes aren't as nice as yours,
oh
and that
yeah.
teaches them at a very young age
So
to
would you agree that most of the bullying you say even in our schools here probably come from the parents talking shit about other people, and then
oh yeah,
the kids hear that?
yeah, that's 100% the case. you I very rarely have seen a case where um, parents aren't the reason. You know, like usually there's two reasons why you'll have bullying going on. One is it was something that was learned. Like, say if you have a racist or
Yeah.
bigoted parent and they talk about gays and they talk about blacks all the time and stuff, the
Yes.
kid will go to school and think that that's fine, you know.
Yes.
And the other thing is something is happening at home and they want to take it out on somebody at school, like say their father is beating up their mom, or they're being sexually abused or something like that, and then they come to school and they bully, you know. And
Yes.
that's usually the case if you're talking about boys. If you're talking about girls, there's this girls really don't have a sense of community, even though they try to act like they do in these feminist communities. And there's really no hierarchy. There's like everybody is the hierarchy, and you need to recognize that I'm better than you. And they will take any little thing. The worst bullies in any school I've ever taught at is women. They're always the worst bullies in schools. They bully the boys and they bully the girls. And they're just some of the most horrible people inside and out. No matter what they portray, they are just vile human beings inside, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even just my own personal experience, I never really had that much of a problem with being bullied by guys. It was always girls
Exactly.
that seemed to be the ones doing most of the bullshit as far as bullying goes. And then, you know, they get all shocked when you finally get to your wit's end and you know, lash out or retaliate. They act like it's such a fucking surprise that you finally got sick of their shit. And it's like, you know, it's like, no, you can't just bully somebody and then expect them not to finally get to the end of their rope and get pissed off at you. That shit doesn't fly.
Yeah, you're just supposed to take it. They're a woman. They're just you're just supposed to take them treating you like shit. You know? That's how they act anyways, you know?
And they don't realize that sooner or later that bullcrap backfires, and in a big way.
Yeah. The other thing that I've been noticing as well with my teaching is I've seen for years now. I started taking college back in 1990. That was the first year I had taken a college course, and it was auto body welding and mechanics. But I noticed really quickly there's a lot of women in school that are not really there to learn anything. That's why they take these softball courses. They have it in their mind that no matter what college course they get, it's just something to fall back on, because what they're there for is to try to find a guy to marry. And they want to...
Well, in America, we call that an MRS degree.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just looking for somebody to find to tag off of so that they can use them for an ATM machine. And if they feel like they're going to lose you, they will get pregnant so that you'll be forced to either marry them or they can siphon off of you for the rest of your life because you got kids with them. You know? And this is something that I really find a lot in my teaching, that I try to warn young men about, most definitely, because this is a thing something that's been going on for at least 60 years, where women will try to find men that have, because I mean you kind of get the cream of the crop, the guys that are really smart in school and that are probably going to do something with their lives in college. So if you can get to a college as a woman, you have a good chance of finding somebody that's probably going to make something of their life. And you also can weed out a lot of the guys that are probably going to go to college for 4 or 5 semesters and then drop out. You know, so if you can get up there and you can take some softball course that you can stay in college for 2 or 3 years and maybe get a diploma, while you're up there you might meet a doctor or a psychologist or a lawyer. You know? And this is something that I've seen. I've been teaching since 25 years now. And like I say, the first year I went to college was 1990. So, but I've actually been teaching in college since about 2011.
Oh yeah. Well, that's just it. That's
In Japan, right?
Well, I started in America actually. I was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was cool because I was in a lot of people, they don't tell you these things, but a lot of people. This is something I'll tell you if you're in college. If you get a bachelor's degree and you're working towards your master's, you can actually teach at a community college or at high schools. So and they pay you for that, and they pay you.
US.
Yeah, they pay you to promote their school as well. You know, like this guy is teaching your kids or teaching your students, and they've learned the skills from our college, that kind of thing. So they will
Yeah.
actually pay you, and you actually can end up getting free tuition by doing that, which is what I did. I would have had to pay about $275,000 for my education, but I didn't have to
Holy
pay
shit.
anything. I had a auto body shop at the time, so I was able to pay for my uh, schooling on my own, so I didn't have any student loans. And then I was also able to uh, get paid to go to college, basically, by teaching at a community college while I was going and getting my master's and doctorate.
Wow. Yeah, I did my undergrad in Canada, and I was going to do a master's degree in Australia. I didn't go to do it. I bailed at the last second. Glad I didn't go. Anyway,
Yeah.
education's expensive, yes.
Yeah, well, that's the cool thing about Australia. Australia and Germany have made free tuition now, and Germany has said that for American students, they are offering American students to come to their country and go to college for free.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm sure you have to have the grades in the background for it. You can't just
Yeah,
be
you might
some
have to
Joe
have like
Schmo
an
off the street.
associate's degree in college and have some decent grades, but
Yeah.
what they want is they know that if they can get you to come over there and teach or learn something there, like say a STEM field or something like that,
You might stay there.
that you'll stay there and you'll work in their country and that you'll probably never go back to the U.S. You know?
Yes. They're kind of stealing you.
Yeah, that's what they're hoping. Well, that's the problem that they're having within America is they have a big problem because of this is something that I seen when I was there on the boards. And what we got going on in America is there's so many women, about 61% of the graduate class for the last 15 years in the United States has been women. And almost 95% of those classes have been crappy classes, just stupid classes like art history, shit like that. Just bullshit courses that you really can't do anything with. They're just classes because they're trying to find somebody to marry. And because of that, a lot of these girls are getting student loans. And they aren't paying those student loans back. They're expecting to get married and have the husband pay those student loans back.
Yes.
And because of that, it's hard for a guy to get into college and to end up getting in a STEM field and getting funding, getting student loans, because they're running out of money because there's so many women going to school. Plus, because there's so many women that are going to school and getting educations and graduating, they feel that men who go to college that can't afford to go to college aren't really worth giving money to because they're not going to graduate anyways. So they're actually having lots of problems with even teachers who teach STEM fields not being able to get jobs in colleges because they don't really need very many teachers for those STEM fields because there's nobody taking their classes. And that most of the colleges you go to now, there's lots of art history classes and female, literature classes and writing classes and all these classes that really, unless you're going to teach, they really don't serve any purpose. You
That's where the
can't
money
really
is.
do anything with them. Most of these classes you might pay, $70,000 for a bachelor's degree in arts, and when you get out, you might be lucky if you make the first year $22,000. So you're not going to make any money in these courses, and they're not there to make money. They're there to find a boyfriend so that they can get married and have a baby, and they don't care. And then, like I say, what ends up happening is that husband ends up having to pay for that college because they're going to have student loans, and since she's not working, she's staying at home, and that's one of their things. They like to get pregnant as quick as possible so that they can tell their husband, like, I can't work, I've got to take care of the kids. So the husband ends up having to pay for his education and her education that she may have not finished even. Maybe she went to college for 3 years and she's got $33,000 of a student loan. So now it's all of a sudden up to the husband to pay for that student loan.
So basically, the whole system basically the whole system is designed to enslave the maximum amount of people as possible. in
As
debt.
long as they're male, as long as they have a dick between their
Yeah,
legs.
especially male, but I mean, females are slaving themselves too. I mean, there are some women that, they might be just be stupid. They just marry a guy that doesn't have money, or maybe who know, whatever it is. What I'm trying to say is everyone's pretty much enslaved. You know, the monetary system's screwed up. They're forcing everyone to go into these expensive schools that keep going up in cost every year for inflation is a reason, and cheap loans are a reason. So it's crazy. So if someone thinks we're targeting women, we're not. I mean, we're just saying what women kind of have to do to survive in this goddamn world. It's horrible, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's part of the reason why I've been encouraging a lot of the MGTOW guys to, explore truck driving as a career, because
Yes.
you can have your quote unquote student loans for truck driving paid off in maybe the space of a year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of these companies, like the company I work for, they will require you to come in with a learner's permit, but like Crossing Ways is looking into coming to my company to become a truck driver. But that's just it. It's not like any real onerous requirements, and my company's got it set up to where, okay, you've got X amount of time to sort of pay off your student loans, as it were. But you've also, once you, fulfill your end of the bargain, your end of the obligation, you are, they will give you that money back, as sort of a show of good faith that, well, you completed what we asked, you're, part of the company now. Now we're going to start giving you that money back a little bit each week in your paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, is a great way to do it, because it's like, we put you through this training. It costs us X amount to train you. You've made us money by working for us. So now we're going to kind of give you that money back a little bit at the time. If you quit or get fired, you're not going to get the rest of it back. But it's done in a way you're not really going to miss the money.
That's what sucks for me is, like, I went to 2 different colleges in the United States to become a truck driver, and I spent over 13 grand to get my CDL, and now I don't have it because the first school I went to was the Trinidad Truck Driving School in Trinidad, Colorado, and I paid $5,500 and got my Class A CDL, and then I drove for MGTOW, or not MGTOW, for TW Trucking and Mayflower, and then I came back to Japan, and I lost that license because I was in Japan for like 4 years. And when I went back to the U.S., I ended up going back to Quality Truck Driving School out of Paducah, Kentucky, and ended up spending $6,600 or $6,800 getting it again. And then because of getting tickets, I lost it again. So I ended up spending, like I say, almost $13,000 for a license that I don't even have anymore.
Holy jeez, man, that's crazy. And now they're letting, I guess, all the Mexicans truck drivers with their trucks into the U.S. So they're all these protections and all these licenses are just another way to extract money from you. And
yeah, I've talked about it before in my videos about the. A lot of people know about it, especially in Canada. There's some guys, they call themselves the free man on the land, and the thing that a lot of Americans don't understand is you pay taxes on your on the roads, and under the Constitution you have the right to travel anywhere you want to go. And the reason why they use the language driver's license and vehicle and all this stuff, it's in the Title 42 that they try to tell you you're the driver and that the person in the seat next to you is the passenger, because under their definitions that means that that person has paid you to ride in your car. and that you're the only under the Title 42, the only law they can really do is if you're using public roads to make a profit, which would be like Mangus. You know, if you're a Class A CDL truck driver, then you have to have a driver's license because you're under the Title 42. A driver is somebody who's using public roads for profit, and that's basically the only thing they can do. But they've convinced people over the last 70 years that if you drive on a public road with your personal conveyance, which is that's what it's supposed to be called, a personal conveyance, you've paid your own money to buy a vehicle to drive on public roads that your taxes have paid for without a license plate, without a driver's license. You can go take your kids to school, you can go to Walmart, you can go shopping, and there's nothing they can do. But they've convinced people that you have to pay to register these vehicles, and they don't. A lot of people don't understand. The United States, the way it runs is states aren't allowed to be in debt. They're not like the government. So this $1 trillion debt that we have in the United States is from the government, not from the states.
I mean, from the federal government.
Yeah, the states every year have to balance their budget, and the way they do that is fake. They actually, when you register your vehicle with the state, they put your vehicle on their registry as they own it. So you don't actually own that vehicle, and at any time, because you've signed that vehicle over to the state, they can come pick up your car and take it anytime they want, because it's actually owned by them, because you gave up property of that vehicle by registering it to them. You know, and a lot of people don't know these things. This is the way the law works. It's why they can come and tow your vehicle if you put it in a parking area someplace. They can just come pick it up because it's their vehicle, and then you have to pay them to get it back. You know? You're basically renting it from them.
So if you don't have any wheels, you're severely cutting off your commerce potential.
Yeah. So basically, like I say, that's what they use. Like, say if you live in Colorado like I did, and say there's 4 million cars in the state of Colorado. Those 4 million cars and their value is used to say that that's balanced the budget. You know, so they're using it as kind of like if you got a loan and you put your house up on it on the mortgage.
Collateral.
Yeah, that your car, all those 4 million vehicles in that state are collateral to the debt.
Yeah.
And that's how they work.
Oh yeah.
So even though you've went and worked, 3 years and you've fixed up a really nice '69 Camaro and you've spent $30,000 on that car and you have a really awesome vehicle that you take to car shows, as soon as you put a license plate on it, you've given that car away to the state. And then now, anytime they want, if you park it someplace or whatever, they can just come take it, and then they can put it into a public auction, and then they can sell it off and keep the money. Because that's what you've done. You've actually given them the right to your car. It's not your car anymore as soon as you register it. It's the state's car.
Well, the same argument could be made for the national debt. Apparently, your birth certificate is also proof that you don't own your own body. It owns, so the state owns you. So they use your body, your earning potential, as national debt collateral.
Well, I'll tell you something about that. On your birth certificate in the United States, there is a number and a little circle.
Custom number, so what they call it.
Yeah, that number states that you have a bond in the United States. And the bond is actually, because you're a part of the corporation of the United States, everybody has bought into the company. Basically, that's what America is. It's a big company. So by you buying into the corporation as a child, because of the GDP of the United States, the average United States citizen is worth about $4.8 million. And at any time, you can actually get that money, but they try not to allow most Americans to know this. And they actually have people that work on your interest. There's actually people that the government has appointed to take care of your bond and to spend the money on things they feel will accrue the interest and make the money. And in most cases, most people don't even know. But that's what that number is on your birth certificate. It's actually a bond number. That is the bond to the amount of money that you have. And there are a lot of people that actually can take that money, buy out of the company, and become free men on the land, and you'll be able to have, 4 million.
Yeah, I've actually met a guy that claims to have done that. I did not believe him. So, I'm sure it can be done maybe, but...
Yeah. It can. It takes a lot of paperwork, and you have to be pretty smart to do it. But there's a lot of people that have done it in the United States and in Canada. The guys that are free men on the land, a lot of them have bought out of the company and said, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't have agency in this, and I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Fuck. Yeah, so, yeah, the different cultures, and I haven't lived in Central America for too long, but it's different almost everywhere, but I think female nature is still the same everywhere.
From what I've seen, yeah. I've lived in a lot of different countries in my life and traveled around to a lot of different places. I went to New Zealand and Australia and Canada and Mexico. I lived in there for a little while. Lived in America and quite a few different states in America. And I've almost found in no country, doesn't matter where it is, it could be in a little hut in Africa, you'll see the same feminist mindset, and it's not even that they don't even realize it's like a feminist mindset. It's like they think they have this entitlement where they think that what I need in my life is just a man to take care of me, but I'm a victim, and they don't understand that doesn't jibe. You can't be a victim and empowered at the same time. It doesn't work. But that's
an empowered victim is like an oxymoron akin to, let's say, military intelligence.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what they don't get. It's like when I listen, like I said, when I get around a bunch of feminists and I'll just throw something out and let them talk. The thing that they don't understand is everything that they say, they talk about being empowered and being strong women and everything is strength. And then everything they say about men says that they're a victim. Like, oh, well, we have the rape culture and we have all this kind of stuff. And everything they say is like, oh, it's because of men. We can't do this because of men. And everything they say is victim. So they're saying in one breath that they're strong women, and then in the next breath they're saying they're a victim. It's like you can't be both. You're either one or you're the other. And they don't get that. You can't be a victim if you're empowered. It doesn't work.
You're referring to hypergamy.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of it in the sense of you cooked a pizza, right, and you left it in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you went in the other room. And when you came back, there wasn't any pizza left in the kitchen. Like a group of ravenous women came in and ate it and ran away with it.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you turned your back, they just took it.
Yeah.
Acquisition of resource.
Yeah. That's how they feel that it's entitlement.
Well, it's more than that, because it's like I don't necessarily blame them for doing the animalistic thing and just trying to grab food to eat.
Yeah.
It's like resources are something you just kind of gobble up, but it's like men aren't doing the same thing. They're like saying that there's some kind of honor.
Yeah.
By allowing them to do this over and over again.
Tifa, actually, what it kind of, to add a little bit of nuance to what you're saying, what it's like is some dude goes out, buys the ingredients, makes an entire pizza from scratch, sticks it in the oven, cooks it, leaves it on the table, and thinks, I'll come back here in a minute when it's cold, and he goes to use the bathroom. Then he walks back in, and there's a group of women that have all entirely just devoured the pizza. There's none left for him, and then they turn to him and bitch, well, why didn't you add pepperoni to this, or why didn't you add ground beef, or why didn't you add this, or why didn't you add that? And it's like, I didn't make that pizza for you.
In my story, in my story, it was a bunch of young, horny teenagers that went in there and took the pizza, and then ran away before the guy got back.
Yeah.
Oh no! That would actually be like the guy would be just standing there. Well, fuck! Now I got to make another pizza. Now in my version, they're all standing around eating his pizza that they had nothing to do with the acquisition of or the creation of it, and then they all turn to him and just start bitching that he didn't, you didn't add enough sauce, or that was the wrong cheese, or why didn't you put Canadian bacon on there? And he's like, I didn't make that for you.
Same scenario, different circumstances.
Yeah.
And great works of fiction, I think.
Yeah, that's the women's life, I think. Great work of fiction.
Yeah.
That's the feminist life. They have this idea of what's going on in life, and it's a crazy malaise of victimhood that they just when you start, like I was talking about with the hippocampal problems, where their mind just can't figure it out. When you start seeing the way their mind works, you start laughing when you see like what I've talked to so many of them in class, where they'll start speaking, and there's a lot of foreigners that come here to Japan to teach or to learn, and they'll come to colleges and get like a visa, and I'll have them talk in my class every once in a while, and I'll just let them hang themselves, because that's the thing that you'll see with most feminists, is they'll talk and talk and talk, but they don't really say anything. And most of the stuff they say, they're just regurgitating,
Yes.
vomiting out things they've read in a book, that the things that they've read about in a book they don't jibe with reality and with society. And they're not actual facts, they're just things that they've wiki-linked, and if you let them talk long enough, it makes me look really smart, but I can basically say like 3 or 4 word sentences.
You mean Wikipedia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where I can just throw out like 3 or 4 word sentences that just shoots down what they just talked about for 6 minutes. Where they'll just say some stupid shit, and I'll just let them go on, and the whole class will be listening to them and acting like they know what they're talking about. And then when they're done, I just say something like a couple sentences, and then everybody's like, God, that was pretty stupid, what she just said, and that's the fun of listening to a feminist talk, is like listening to their rhetoric and their every one of them. Like if one of them's in a class and there's like 6 or 7 of them in a class, one of them will say something, and all of them will be like Amos and Andy. They'll all be like nodding their head, like, "Oh yeah, that's right, yeah," and everybody else in the class is like, "What the fuck are they talking about?" And then I say something, and everybody, I throw out there what the truth is, and then they all go like, "Oh, geez, that was stupid." And then the feminists are still sitting there with their head bobbing up and down, going like, "Yeah, I don't believe what this teacher just said. I think that was right," So I think that's the problem that we have with most feminists, is they're not going to let go of their beliefs, and they will run society into the ground like a kamikaze, and they'll never shut it down because they just can't see it. I think they're just too close. They're like the horse with the blinders on, where who
are the Japanese women they're blaming for their oppression?
Men.
So they're not blaming white devil men, because there's no white devil men there.
No, they're blaming men in general, because the thing is that a lot of people don't understand is, in Japan there's not very many foreigners here. Most of the gaijin, the foreigners that are here, are actually Chinese and Korean and stuff like that. Whites like British and Australian and American and Canadians are like less than 1% of the population.
Yeah.
There's only, in the entire country, there's like less than 140,000 foreigners here. And like I say, 70% of those are Chinese and Vietnamese and Korean and Filipino and stuff like that. You know,
So
so
obviously they can't blame the white devil men there, so they have to blame
no,
the yellow-skinned Japanese.
yeah, that's what they have going on here. Is the most of the problems they think that the country has is from uh, Japanese men. And they try to say that Japanese men aren't uh, don't work hard enough, don't give them enough money, things like this. They think that it's really men that are causing the issue. You know.
The only way those
Well, you know,
men could give
go ahead.
them more money is if they worked round the fucking clock every goddamn day of the week, and that's
Yeah.
just impossible.
Which is why every week in Japan we have 2 or 3 people in the country that die uh, at the desk.
Hmm.
There's men that literally work here uh, sometimes 4 or 5 days in a row with no sleep and no eat. You know.
Sure sounds like the moral of the story is it hasn't been a better time to go ghost than now.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or go herbivore or something, because I mean, shit, these. I mean, that's well, the biggest issue in America. I don't think it's the same in Japan. I could be wrong, but you can kind of correct me as I go. But like over here in America, women are trying to make it practically illegal for men to fuck anything,
Yeah.
and that all we're supposed to be for is exactly like in Japan, just to work, give them the money, and shut up and go on with it. And even pickup artists are getting to the point where they're kind of iffy about doing their thing, and it's getting ridiculous. And it's like most of the MGTOW guys. I mean, a lot of them are like really, really hating on women are evil and this and that. It's like, no, they're not evil. They're just stupid enough to go along with what other women tell them.
Yeah.
So then you've got like me. I just like got sick of relationships and was like, I need to be all about me. So I went MGTOW, and that was the end of it. I realized that most people are just stupid and dumb enough to go along with stuff, and I just kind of go on and do my thing and enjoy my life. And
What is
it's
your
not a matter of that I got butt hurt by enough women to quit. It was just that I ain't got time for this. These women, like I had one girl I was talking to, not really seriously on my end, but once she decided that, why don't you talk to me very much? You got a girlfriend. I know you got a girlfriend. And nothing I said was, I was like, no, I don't have a girlfriend. I don't normally have time for that shit.
Yeah.
And
What is
it's
your
just like this weird.
what is your what does your family have to say about it? I know that you have your 2 sisters and your mom and stuff like that. What do they have to say about you not wanting to marry and not wanting to have kids with anybody and just
My
kind of
mom
doing
was
your
the
own
one.
thing?
My mom was the one that I originally had that powwow with to come to the conclusion that I just don't have time for that shit.
Yeah.
So
What do
my
you
mom was the one who kind of talked me into going MGTOW.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Have you heard that really cool Ronda Rousey quote?
Which one?
She talked about her mom told her not to be a do nothing bitch when
Oh
when
yeah.
she was a kid. It
Yeah, I
was
heard about that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. She said she's her mom told her when she was a kid the reason why she works out so hard and why she works so hard to be good at what she does is because she doesn't want to be a do nothing bitch. You know. And I bet there was feminists everywhere that their heads exploded when she said that.
Oh, there was one. There was one on that several people did responses to, and I was heavily entertained by it. You know, this
I
girl
always,
that's got her hair dyed Miss Piggy Pink, you know, talking
yeah,
about the do nothing bitch thing, and she was being all kinds of passive aggressive about her disapproval of it, and I was just laughing.
yeah. I love to listen to him talk. You know, I'm actually a subscriber to quite a few of them, and I just get on their page and it gives me lots of fodder. You know, I can make videos for months on listening to a feminist video. You know, just
Do you what's your Japanese name? Is it Shi-nu?
Shi-nu. Yeah,
Shi-nu. Okay. Do
yeah.
you know of a guy named Benjamin Fulford?
No.
Okay, he lives in Japan, and he's all into what do you want to say? Like he said, his father was a ambassador in Canada, and then he moved to Japan. And now he's involved with like Japanese mafia or something, like the what do they call them? The
Yakuza.
Yakuza. Yeah. So he's like into conspiracies and things like that. So yeah, I thought maybe you'd know of him, but yeah, he lives in Japan. I don't know where in Japan, but
Yeah. Well, it's a big country, like I say, and it's you know, there's millions and millions and millions of people here. So, you know,
yeah.
Well,
even though there's
Shi-nu, I should probably go ahead and say this, and I think you'll get what I'm saying, but Nihongo skoshi hanashimasu.
yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. He just said he
That's
doesn't speak much Japanese.
Uh,
but I do speak enough to, I could probably, if through immersion, I could probably learn the language pretty quickly, but I speak
Yeah. Well,
just enough to kind of get by, I think.
I actually used to run a course where I would teach foreigners that came to Japan to teach in schools, because if you're going to come here and you have like an associate's degree, you can come here and make around $3,000 a month teaching children, and you can
Yeah.
teach like little kindergarten classes, and you can get a sponsorship visa for a year and leave the country with like $50,000 to go back to America, or you can stay here for 2 or 3 years and save up like $100,000. You know, so I would teach them, and it's very easy to teach you basic Japanese to get yourself around like what you need to learn. You know, like some of the things that are easy for them to learn that I taught them about really easy was the kolewa, solewa, and aliwa, which means like this, that, and that over there. And then I would teach them ikuda, which is like how much. And then anytime you put ka on the end is a question. So you just say ikuda desu ka, which means how much does it cost. So
Well,
you
and of
could,
course, des
you
is
could
sort
just
of a
start pointing at
catch-all,
things.
is, am, are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
des
could just
is like
start pointing at
a
things.
catch-all, is, am, are.
Yeah, if you walk into stores, the easiest way for you to figure out what shit is, which is what I did back in 2000. I used to piss them off. I'd walk into a store and I'd just point at something. I'd go, "Korewa ikura desu ka?" Which means this here, how much does it cost? And they would tell you. And then I would point at something else and I'd go, "Korewa ikura desu ka?" And then if you say "nani desu ka?" that means what is this? So you'd say, "Korewa nani desu ka?" and they'd tell you what it is, and then you just start doing that, and pretty soon they kick you out of the store after about 10 minutes of that, you know. But you get like a free Japanese lesson, and basically you can learn some basic sentences in Japanese, and then once you learn some words, you can pull it out and put in like one other word. Like if you walk into a store and you're looking for an apple, you say lingo, you know. So you can very quickly learn a small sentence, a bunch of sentences that you understand, and that most of the times when you say these things to a person, they'll say the same kind of answer back to you. So you'll kind of quickly learn, you'll know what they're talking about. And you can go into a store and ask them, where do I find this? And they'll tell you, you know, go over there or something in Japanese, and you'll know what they're talking about, you know, because you'll learn like left and right in Japanese is migi and hidari. So you'll start to learn which one that is, and then you'll be able to, when they say you go, you know, that way and then go migi, you know, so you'll know what they're talking about. And it comes very quickly. It took me 1 year to learn Japanese, you know.
Well,
And
the funniest thing to me is once I actually started, I took Japanese language lessons when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I'd always heard the jokes about, people making jokes about, oh, you want some fried rice? And I'm like,
yeah,
I never quite understood it. And then when I actually took Japanese language lessons, I realized that the reason for that was they don't have really a specified R sound or L sound in the language. It's sort of a combination of the two.
well, we don't have
And that's
R at
why
all.
they,
We don't
yeah,
have
well, yeah,
we have our R
and
is pronounced as an L, and we actually don't have an L.
yeah, exactly. That was what fascinated me about the languages. That's where the joke comes from. People making jokes about fried lice and shit like that, and it's like, well, they don't really, the sounds are like more or less interchangeable, and that's why, because they, like you said, they don't really have the L, and the R sounds like an L, so that's why it's like almost interchangeable.
Well, that's why we laugh a lot when we hear some of the people in America say things like sake, because that's actually not a Japanese word, because if you look at the way Japanese works is we have vowels, and our vowels here are a, I, U, E, O, So after that, everything has a vowel. So the next thing is K, which is kaki, kuke, ko. And then sa, si, su, se, so. Na, ni, nu, ne, no. Ma, mi, mu, me, mo. So when you put these words together, they always will have a vowel. And typically what you'll end up with is an O at the end. You'll always have something at the end, which is why we have no hard consonants here. So it's very hard for Japanese people to say something with a hard consonant. So, like start, we don't have start, we have starto. So they put
in
a
Korea,
toe at the end of it. Yeah, so that's why you'll always hear them say starto, and things like that. And I used to do in my English classes when I used to teach people, I would draw a picture of a toe, and I would put a star on it. I'd say that's what that means when you say that in English to Americans. If you said starto, that's what that would mean, And then they don't say V. It's really hard for them to understand here the difference between B and V. So they say violin, and they say, instead of saying V, they say buoy. So I had the hardest time when I teach students here, convincing them and making them understand what a buoy is, what the difference between V and a buoy is. So I would have to draw a picture of the ocean and a buoy, or I'd have to get on the internet and I'd have to show them this is what a buoy is, and I'd have to write out what it sounds like, because they can't even hear that because they don't speak English, so they don't understand why when I say V, it doesn't sound the same as the sensei's, because he's saying V and I'm saying V, so it sounds the same to me, but I'm like, no, you're saying buoy, buoy, and I'm saying V. It's completely different.
In Korea, they would say Walmart, or we would say Walmart, and the taxi car driver would say Walmart.
Yeah. They have the same thing here. They say Makudo, and Makudo is McDonald's. Yeah. So
that's what always kind of fascinated me about foreign languages, because there was an older guy from Mexico who worked for my dad's appliance shop, and one of the complaints that he had a lot, because we would kind of do like a conversational. He would like point at something, and I would say the word, and then he would try to say it back. And a lot of the times, and I'm going to probably mess up the way he said it, but he would say like, my tongue no make the words, because he was trying to tell me that his tongue couldn't wrap around the American words, and I was totally patient with that, because it's like you were talking about with Japanese, that they have a hard time because they're raised to speak a certain specific way. Once they get older, it gets harder for them to not go back to the way they've gotten used to speaking.
Yeah.
And you have to be really, really fluid with your way of doing things to be able to even say certain things properly in foreign languages, because You know, I mean, English, you know, they say is one of the hardest languages to learn, only because we've got so much nuance to it. You know, whereas in other countries, they seem to have a very, like in Japan, you know, they've got one specified way to pronounce their vowel sounds, whereas in America, you got long vowels, short vowels, and all these different nuances to it.
That's the cool thing about Japanese, though. That's why it's very easy to speak. Once you learn the basics, the basic pronunciation, because all you have to learn is what's known here as hiragana. If you learn hiragana, you learn the basic pronunciation of all Japanese. There's only like 26 things. Once you learn that, everything else is learning. It's very hard to learn the 100,000 kanji. Kanji is the hardest thing to learn. But you can learn how to read it and write it very easily, and to speak it. You know, if you learn how to do it in katakana and hiragana and romanji, it's very easy to write. But once you start adding in kanji, that's where it becomes difficult. But a lot of foreigners, within the first year or two of being in Japan, you can learn how to speak it and you can learn how to write it very easily. You know.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, just even taking the basic languages, I've heard people, you know, like I've talked to people and they're like, "What about that dude Shi-nu Asami?" And I'm like, "Oh, you mean Shi-nu Asami?"
Yeah.
And they're just looking at me. They're just kind of looking at me funny, and I'm like, "No, it's a Japanese pronunciation. You know, all their vowels have one specified pronunciation. So once you know that, you know, and you see, oh well, you know, this is a Japanese word. It's pronounced like this. You know, so you kind of already know that. But a lot of people, you know, they're still going by the English, you know, long vowels, short vowels, and all that, and so it's harder for them to, you know, unless you give them like sort of the basic rundown of, well, the vowels are pronounced like this in Japan, so as long as you keep that in mind, you're good.
Yeah. Well, let me see if I can get you to see this. I don't know if I can. Let's see.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to make out.
Let's see.
Oh yeah, karaoke, karate, sake.
Yeah. These are some of the words that most people make mistakes with. Like, I'm from Kobe, and there's a lot of people that have came here in the military, and they'll say Kobe, like Kobe beef, you know?
Yes.
And they don't understand that BE isn't pronounced B, it's be, you know, because B is BI, you know, Kobe. So the same thing with, I'll tell you the story of karaoke. People call it karaoke, but there's no such thing as that word. It doesn't exist. But karaoke was something. A lot of people didn't have TVs, and they didn't have a lot of entertainment back in the 50s after the war. So they came up with this thing where people who made music, songs that were popular of the day, they would have these guys that would get on stage with a accordion and like a band, and they would play music, and you had to sing the song and get all the words right, and if you didn't, you lost. So it was kind of like a game, and that's why they call it in Japan. We have another word that I'll teach you is kata, which is like kore, sole, and ale. It's like we say kore kara, which is like this here, you know. So kara, okay, means like, is this all right, you know. So basically that's what the game is. It's like, am I doing it right? So that's why it means karaoke, you know. So when you say karaoke, a lot of Japanese people will be like, I don't know what he's talking about. What's he saying? You know, it doesn't mean anything in Japanese because it's supposed to be karaoke. You know, the same with sake. You know, a lot of people in America say sake, but that's actually not a word in Japanese. It's sake. You know, so, you know, and like karate, you know, things like that. Those aren't words in Japanese either. It's karate, which is kore kara, and then te is your hand. So if you say T, that's that doesn't mean your hand. So when you say karate, the people look at you and go like, what is he talking about? You know? So, you know, because you didn't say te. Te is a hand, and that's what karate means, is fighting with your hand, you know? So, yeah. So there's a lot of funny things like that I find when I talk to people that are foreigners, and you have to explain to them. I have to do the same thing though when I talk to, like I say, with Japanese people, when you teach them English, and you're trying to teach them, they don't understand in Japanese why their pronunciation is so important, and I'll have to explain to them why it's so important. That if they pronounce things right, they'll be understood, and if they don't, then they won't, you know. And you have to understand the same thing with you know, with Japanese, because they'll think that automatically you don't know how to speak Japanese if you start speaking that way, and they will say things behind your back like baka gaijin, which means stupid foreigner.
Well,
And they already know you don't know what they're talking about.
Well, and it kind of goes along with an old Ron White joke that I thought was funny, where he was talking about, you know, when he was a kid, one of his buddies would have survived getting bit by a snake if he had known the difference between an antidote and an anecdote.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Shi-nu.
Which that, you know, that. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to switch gears for a second. I wanted to find out what the market there for foreign gigolos, and how many women are not getting married anymore, you know, and they have to, you know, the rich women have to find gigolos, because in the UK it's been a massive increase in the past 15 years.
You don't really have much of a problem with gigolos here. What you have here is it's kind of funny. You end up with if you teach English in Japan, not children, but sometimes with children too. But like I've told you guys about what happens here with being married to a Japanese wife and the husband never is home and stuff like that. If you teach English here in Japan and say you get a visa and you teach at a school and you teach kids, you'll meet the parents, and you'll also, if you teach private lessons outside of that, you may end up most of your teaching will be Japanese housewives. And what will end up happening is you may have 5 or 6 Japanese housewives that hit on you and try to sleep with you, you know. And you can become kind of a gigolo, but you're being paid to teach English, and in many cases these women don't really want to learn English, they just want a gaijin boyfriend, you know.
Fucking right, man.
Yeah, so you might be able to get paid, you know, $50 an hour to teach an hour-long class, and the whole time in the class you're just fucking the student, you know.
Yeah, I've seen enough hentai manga to know exactly what he's talking about.
It's very common. It's very common here.
Yeah?
Yep, it's very common.
I'm thinking about doing that because I was in Korea already, and, you know, if my plan doesn't work out, my other plan, move down south, man. I'm thinking about Japan. I'm like, okay, I have a degree. Why not just come to Japan? I don't know how competitive the job market is. You know, obviously I can't get a citizenship there.
You can actually if you stay here for a little while, but there's a. I was going to put it. Maybe I'll put it in the description. There's a website called gaijinpot.com, and gaijinpot.com is actually a place where you can get hired and get visa sponsorship if you have a degree, and you can get a visa sponsorship and get sent over here. Most of the places have their own apartment complex. They have their own stuff, so you're basically just getting on a plane flight, coming over here, and then getting like a job immediately. You'll come over here, and within a week of coming here, you'll start working, and then you can also, once you start making money, you don't actually have to pay rent. They pay the rent for you. So you're just working, and you just have to spend your money on food.
But I mean, could you do that your whole life there?
You'll get your job, and you'll save money in the bank. and then after a year, you can renew it. If they like you, they'll renew it, and if they don't, if you don't like it, you can move to someplace else. You know, damn it.
So they kind of own your butt for the contract, don't they?
For the year, but when you start making money, you can actually rent out many small little rooms in Japan to go and start teaching private lessons outside of school. Because usually what will happen is you won't have that many classes. Like say you get hired to teach at a high school, you know, or even at a grade school, and you teach like a couple classes. You might teach like 3 classes a day, and you might get paid, like I say, about $2,500 to $3,000 a month from that. Well, you can use that money because you're not actually paying rent and utilities or anything like that. You can use that money to open up another school, and if you do that, you can make an extra $5,000 to $6,000 a month on top of that, which will allow you, like I say, to save enough money to, like, if you did come back to the U.S., you could very easily have a really nice life once you come back, you know. But this website, I'm trying to get to it right now because I'm online on the live hangout. It's slow, so.
So I'm trying the point I'm trying to put across is that, you know, the guys might be watching or who might watch in the future. They, you know, you don't have to stay in the U.S. I mean, if you have the gumption, you can move to another country, right? So, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like me, that's what I did. I got out of college. I actually graduated with my PhD in December, and I graduated December 9th. Yeah, I graduated December 19th, and by January 16th, I was already in Japan.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so it didn't take me long. You know.
So you think a guy like me with a, you know, like a degree could easily make a living there?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough decision, man. My plan is to move to Central America, but you know, Japan might be a better option. Who knows, man? if I could, you know, it depends. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to screw Japanese housewives while their husbands are at work, which is like all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is like she's cheating on her husband, but technically, like I've told you guys, the husband probably hasn't slept with her in a year. You know, the husbands in Japan will be lucky if they can have sex with their wife 2 or 3 times a year.
Holy shit.
Now, is there any sort of like prostitution culture where the guys know they're not going to get it with their wives, so they just, you know, go to a brothel or something just to blow off steam?
That's what a lot of the foreigner culture is. Like I was telling you guys, most of the foreigners that are here, like you know, 65% of them are from China and Philippines and everything. We have these hostess clubs in Japan and massage parlors and stuff like that. And most of those are these women are actually very kind of smart. They come from China, and they will actually they'll be able to speak English, they'll be able to speak Japanese, and they speak Chinese or Filipino or whatever. So they're actually multi-languaged, you know. They can actually speak sometimes even more than that. Some of them will speak French and other languages like Spanish and all kinds of stuff. So they're actually, that's what's really funny about women, is like they may actually be pretty smart, but they're not smart enough to realize that they can get a job doing something, you know, pretty cool. So they'll go and you'll notice right away when they talk about misogyny and all this kind of stuff. If a woman goes to a foreign country, the first thing they think of doing is sex work. You know, which is kind of really hilarious. You know. You know, that's like the first thing they think of doing is sex work. You know, so it tells you right away that they don't think misogyny is that big of a deal. You know.
Well, and that's the funny thing. I've actually gotten into those conversations where I'd say, okay, if you want to know true female privilege, let me ask you this. If me and you were both homeless and you wanted some money, what could you do? You could go suck a dick and make 20 to 30 bucks. What could I do?
Exactly.
I can't suck a dick for 20 to 30 bucks.
Exactly.
No.
You know, the only thing men can do when they're homeless is like beg for money, and women can have sex. You know.
Well, that's why the homeless problem in the United States isn't much of a problem for women. It's mostly men.
Exactly.
The only women who really suffer from the homeless problem are the ones that just are fucked up to beyond, a certain degree.
Yep. Let's see. I put in the chat the gaijin pot, and then this is something that's really popular for Japan as well. We have a thing here called I think that was it. Was that the same thing? It's gaijin pot.
Actually, make sure to put those links in the description for anybody that's just listening.
Yeah. The other thing that we have here, we have two things called Kansai Flea Market and Kansai Scene. The Kansai Flea Market and the Kansai Scene are two online websites where you can find companies here in Japan that are looking for people to teach English or French or Spanish or all kinds of different languages, and they will hire you. Like I say, what they do is they hire you, they pay for your plane ticket, they pay for your bus ride into wherever they're at, they give you usually like a bicycle, a train pass, everything like that, so that you're kind of completely paid for. And once you start getting paid, the only thing you actually have to pay for is like food, and like kerosene. If you have like a kerosene heater like I do, you have to pay for kerosene, you have to pay for food. So your monthly bill.
They don't have age discrimination there?
Not for teachers, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's
I
guys.
know they do in Korea.
Yeah, there's guys here doing teaching, like English teaching, that are in their 60s and 70s.
And they probably pay into the pension system there too, eh?
Yeah. Yep.
And they probably do that stuff under the table as well.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I was in Korea already, so Japan I was always in the back of my mind, but who knows?
Yeah, it's a really cool place to go where you can find some really good jobs, and like I say, some of the places really suck, but once you get over here, you just have to watch out with who you get. There's a lot of problems here with some of the schools where they'll hire people from a foreign country. They'll come here and not have much money, and they'll tell you things like you have to work for the first month for free.
Yes.
For training, and they won't pay you. So they'll get you like that. That's a way I've talked about in other places where they want to get you over here, get you stuck where you don't have any money, you don't have any way to leave, and they kind of get you into like a slave thing where you're stuck here with no money, you're working for them, they're training you, and they're telling you that you have to pay them in some cases. They're saying like the money that you're supposed to be getting paid, you're not able to get paid. And you're actually having to take the money that you're supposed to be getting paid, and you're having to give that to them for the training. So they're since you already have a place to stay and a place to live, they give you barely enough money. They might give you like $100 a week or something like that to live on for food. So they'll say, we're giving you money to eat, and you don't need any more money than that, and we're training you, so you're paying us to train them. So they may, like I say, they may train you for a month or even two, so you may lose $5,000, and they may only give you, $100 a week. So you may get $400 of what you should have been paid, which might have been $2,500. You know?
Yeah, I've heard of scams like that being run. They're run everywhere, pretty much.
Yeah. So you just got to watch out about that. But it's very easy once you get here that if that does end up happening to you, you can jump to another school. And it's a really good idea to, if you come over here and you get sponsorship, try to get more than one job, you know, so that you're not working for one school, you're working for 3 or 4. And in that case, because you have those other jobs, the jobs that you do have less of a chance of trying to pull that kind of stuff on you because they know you're not tied down to them, you know?
Yes.
And that you can very easily say, well, you know, like they'll tell you, like, can you teach a class here, you know, after this one you're teaching now? And you say, sorry, I can't. I got to go over here. I've got another school I've got to go to teach at, you know. And then they start to realize that you're not tied to them. And by doing that, it helps you out a lot. It makes it a lot easier for you. A lot of guys don't do that, and they get into trouble over here because they get one school, you know, and they'll come over here and they'll try to work with only one school, and they get screwed most of the time. It's very hard to find schools that won't use foreigners if that's what you do. Come over here because they know most of them, they got what they call a weeaboo, which is the guys that really like Japanese culture. They like Japanese manga, you know, and all this kind of stuff, and they're really kind of nerdy, game-oriented people, and they want to come over here and they just want to live in Japan and play video games and read manga comics and stuff like that. So they know that that's what you're over here for, and they don't really respect you because they look at you as an outsider. So they'll bring you, they'll let you come over here, and then they'll screw you when you're here. So the only way to
private school?
Yeah. Lots of the times that's what'll happen with any school. You know, it doesn't matter what school it is. So the best schools you can work at are a lot of guys end up getting like these private schools where they teach kids, where they teach like children and grade schools. And those are the ones that usually fuck you. The ones that won't fuck you are the ones that you teach like business courses for like business Japanese. And you teach at high schools or colleges like I do. You know, when you do that, you tend to not be fucked over. But if you only have like an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, you'll end up teaching like children or grade school. And if you do that, there's much more of a chance of you getting fucked over. But like I say, if you get more than one job, you can do that. And that's the other thing. You'll find a lot of these schools that hire you that will sponsor your visa will tell you while you work for them, you can't work for anyone else. And if you hear them say something like that, don't work for them. Because what they're trying to tell you is when you get here, we're going to fuck you over, and we don't want to give you the option of working for someone else.
Yeah, that's the way it was in Korea.
Yeah, you know.
Well,
so that's a red flag.
That's sort of the beauty of what I do is if I felt like the company was disrespecting me or treating me badly, I could tell them, well, sorry, go fuck yourselves. I'm going to go work for this company over here.
Yep.
Because my skill, right now what a lot of people don't understand is the trucking industry is suffering because they're having a hard time keeping people who can do the job, you know, because a lot of the older guys are starting to retire or, you know, or whatever. So it's getting harder and harder for them to keep enough bodies behind the wheels of these trucks. And
well, if they'd stop giving people tickets.
Well, no, and a lot of it is, you know, most of the people that come in, you know, a lot of people have a misconception that, oh, truck driving's easy. All you do is just sit and drive all day. Well, there's a lot more nuance to it than they realize.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys will get into it, try it for a couple of months, and then they're like, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah.
So people like me are actually rare who actually have the experience and love doing it.
Yeah, well, when I was doing it, my problem that I seen was a lot of guys were really into doing it, but they ruined those guys by giving them a bunch of tickets in the small little fucking towns, you know. These guys would work and they would actually really like it, and they were like me. They'd pay like, you know, almost $7,000 to get a driver's license. And then they'd go out and they'd work for like 6 months or something. And obviously, if you're going to work a year and you're going to drive 100,000 miles, you're bound to get way more tickets than most people. And in 1 year, you might get 4 or 5 tickets. And with Warner, when you got tickets, they had like these little envelopes in your glove box, and you were supposed to take the ticket, put it in there, and send it off to them. And they were supposed to have lawyers that dealt with it, that would get like just pay the money and have no points taken off your license and stuff like that, because they knew a lot of this shit is speed trap shit, you know. So that what would happen was most of the guys that were really interested in doing it lost their license back in the, you know, when I was doing it and before I was doing it, and they were like getting these people to pay states to get their driver's license. So that's really what they wanted. And then they were making you pay as well to pay for tickets, and then they thought that they could just, I think they really think that there's going to continue to be these people to drive truck when they're harassing you like that. They think that there's going to be a never-ending supply of people to drive trucks, and they can just continually fuck with people and take their driver's license, even though you might have spent me $13,000 to get a driver's license, and all it takes is like 3 tickets, and now I don't have a driver's license.
Hell, I don't know if I don't know how many people I told this story, but I was on my way to my first vacation in 4 years. I'm driving the truck because it's my truck. You know, I'm making the payments. It's my truck. So I'm driving through Arizona, and a cop gets behind me and pulls me over, and I'm looking, and I'm like, well, I'm doing the exact speed limit. You know, all the lights on my truck are working. I couldn't figure out what he pulled me over for. His excuse for having pulled me over was that I didn't have a license plate on the rear of the truck. And I just looked at him and I said, you do see on the side of the truck where it says my company's based out of Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
And he said, well, it's a state law. And I'm sitting there, and I said this out loud, but I'm thinking to myself, my company's main office is based in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
And this asshole's trying to tell me that the entire safety and compliance branch of my company does not know whether or not it is a state law that we should have a license plate on the front and rear of the vehicle at all times.
Yeah.
And when I contacted my company, I told him this, and I had to send him a copy of the ticket. He only gave me a warning ticket.
Yeah.
But I think it's because he realized that I was too smart for him to just write me a ticket and get away with it.
Yeah.
Because I'm familiar with the fact that my company, not only would they have known this, but they would have told me, oh hey, you need to stop by one of the terminals and get an extra license plate to put on the back of your truck. Yeah, and that wouldn't have been a problem for me. But my company would have known this. They've got an entire department devoted to knowing the laws from state to state to state, and they've got terminals and branches in like 23 states, so you're always close to a terminal. And they're trying to tell me, this cop's trying to tell me that my company doesn't know shit about state law when it comes to commercial vehicles.
Well, I've talked about that before with one of my videos and stuff. The thing that you got in America is, in 1996, there was a government study that came out that they said that there was 1 million laws on the books, and they're just like stupid laws, a lot of them, like you can't marry a horse, shit like that. And they estimated that it would take the average American citizen 26,000 years to read every law, not even to understand it, just to read them. So now what we have is 6 million laws on the books in 2013 or something like that, I think. So there's probably even more now. But the problem that you have with that is they've made so many stupid laws that these cops can pull you over, and they'll just make shit up, because the chances are whatever they're saying you're doing is wrong, probably is. So they can just, that's what they do. They want to make it illegal for you to exist, So they'll just come up with something. They'll pull you over and they'll just make shit up and write a ticket, and they have this idea that anything they say is law. you know.
Yeah, and shit don't actually work that way.
Yeah, they think it does though.
And that's part of the reason why I do my Saturday hangouts is because a lot of guys, yeah, I mean, MGTOW is a great thing, but a lot of guys don't realize that, I mean, there's so many laws on the book that unless you're fucking a paralegal or a law student, you're going to be clueless to at least, you know, one tenth of the law is probably about as much as you actually realize and understand. The rest of it's a bunch of bullshit gobbledygook that nobody fucking understands unless they're going, and probably even most of the law themselves don't even understand it. They just know it's there.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens. That's why a lot of police officers get really pissed off, because some people are actually law students, or they've taken, you know, maybe they got a bachelor's degree in engineering or something, but they took like 3 semesters of law, you know, so they actually know a little bit about law. And most of the, this is what's really funny, most police officers haven't taken any legal courses. So they don't actually know anything about law, and they don't know anything about the way the system works. They're not lawyers. Yet the way the system is set up, they're doing something that constitutionally they're not supposed to be able to. They're holding court on the side of the road. You know, that's what they're doing. They're holding court on the side of the road. They're having you sign a contract, you know, on the side of the road saying that you've done something wrong and that you're admitting to it. And that's actually what that means. It's a legal binding contract, you know. So they get pissed off when they stop somebody and you start quoting them actual law, because they just make shit up. They don't even know what the fuck they're talking about, you know. And then they say, I'm an officer. I deal with the law. I am the law. That's how they feel. They are the law. And they don't realize that because you represent the law doesn't mean you are the law. To be the law, you need to understand what the fuck you're talking about. And most of them don't. Most of them don't have any idea what the law is. And if they pull you over for something, they can't even quote you the law where it is, because most of the time it's not a law. It's a statute, and a statute isn't a law, you know, by definition. It's just not. It's like if I have a house and I get tired of these kids walking on my fucking lawn, so I want to make a law, and I tell the local, you know, municipal court, I'm going to make a law that nobody can walk on my lawn. Everybody's going to tell me I'm a fucking idiot, you know, because to make something a law, first of all, the people, the constituents of the state, have to vote to make it a law. Secondly, the governor has to sign it into law. So if I can't make something a law, I can make it a statute, or I can make it a code, you know. And what that means is I can make some silly bullshit code that doesn't actually hold any law, and I can say, well, you violated the code that I came up with, some bullshit code. You're not supposed to walk on my lawn. Every time you walk on my lawn, you have to pay a $20 fine for violating that code, you know. And that's basically what they deal. That's what they do to everybody in America. Everybody is under the impression that these codes and these statutes that you're violating are real laws, and a code and a statute isn't a law, you know.
Well, and that's why I get a laugh out of, you know, we were talking earlier before the live hangout about these signs in these cities that saying it's a city ordinance to not use your engine brake.
Yeah.
Every time I pass by those signs, I laugh and do it anyway, because it's not an actual law. It's just a city ordinance. The city got together and said, we don't like those loud engine brakes, so we'll say they can't use them.
Yeah, and it's really easy too, because typically you won't go to court in their town, you know, and typically they'll have a lawyer that's like, if your company has a lawyer, your company will have a lawyer from outside of their state. And it's very easy for that lawyer to say, look, it's not even a law, and you can't give them a ticket for that. And since it's not a law, you can't really do anything. And it's not a state law. It's a city ordinance, which means he's not from that city. It would be legal for them to do that if maybe you were paying taxes and you were a resident of that city. But since you're not a resident of that town, it doesn't obligate you to anything.
And that's what's really funny about it is, you know, you know, and I've gotten away with using this argument myself as, you know, well, it's a city ordinance, so are you telling me you'd rather me not make a little noise and you'd rather me, you know, wind up killing somebody because that speed changed on a hill and I'm heavy loaded? Would you rather I just kill somebody from your town
Yeah,
by doing that, or would you rather I ignore it, slow down, and not hit that dude that just pulled out in front of me from the stop sign thinking he had enough time?
that's something that happened to me a lot actually. That's what's really scary is they do that shit on purpose. They put up their signs in a way where you can't really slow down in time, especially if you're in a rig. And that's really who they're out to get. And that's why I say it's almost like a they don't really realize what they're doing to themselves in America because, like you're saying, they're running out of people to drive trucks, and the reason why they're running out of people to drive trucks is because guys like me that drove trucks were drove out of it because I got too many tickets, and it's because these states are thinking that they're just going to have a never-ending supply of truck drivers, and eventually you're going to run out of guys that can afford to get a driver's license, and you're going to run out of guys that want to do it. You know, so the guys that actually want to do it, you should be trying to take care of them and not fuck with them and siphon money off of them. But that's what they do. They try to fuck with you, and every time I used to sweat. I'm sure Magnus will know about this. You sweat every time you drive into a fucking port. You know, when you get on them scales, you always got to worry if they're going to pull you over, and they're going to make you open your truck, and they're going to check your manifest, and they're going to give you a bunch of shit, and they're going to hold you up, and you're going to be late delivering your load. And every time you drive through one of those fucking port of entries, you always got to worry, what the fuck, you know, am I going to get out of this, you know, without
Well, and what a lot of guys fail to realize, because nobody really tells them this, but I do, is when you go in there, if they say they want to open your truck, you tell them, okay, well then the first thing you got to do is you got to call my company and you got to call my customer and ask them, when you get permission from them to open this truck, I will gladly open it for you.
Yeah,
A lot of times they'll tell you flat out that only the customer is allowed to pop that seal on your trailer
yeah,
when you get there.
yeah.
So I mean,
A lot of times,
for
Warner, I used to haul the TVs and all that shit. When you have those high dollar loads, they want you to drive straight through, and they don't even want you to stop at like truck stops. You can't even sleep overnight.
They'll see it. Well, now the rule is you have to drive at least no less than 200 miles away from the customer before you're allowed to stop. But they'll bolt seal the fuck out of your trailer when something like that's on there.
Yeah.
And what a lot of guys need to understand is this, and I'm going to say this, and if you're thinking about going into truck driving, keep this in mind. You have power over that load, because the second it is released to your authority, you're responsible for it. Thereby, you have the power to tell people to go fuck themselves with anything in regards to that load. It's on your head. It's your responsibility. You have that authority.
That's why a lot of those cops at those fucking depots will try to get you to let them open it, because they don't really care about the load. They'll like pull the shit out, throw it in the rain, and you know, they'll start going through your truck because they want to search through shit. And they do that shit all the time. Like, they'll try to get you to say like you're overweight because your axles are in the wrong position. And then they'll try to say you have to unload like 200 pounds worth of shit out of your truck. And they'll try to get you to throw out TVs or some shit onto the ground at the fucking cop station. You know, shit like that. I had shit like that happen to me where I was just like, fuck you, man. I called my fucking, my thing, and I was like, I'll leave the whole fucking truck here. You can fuck off, you know. I'll just get out and walk off. You can fuck off. I'm not doing that, you know.
Well, that's because a lot of people are taught, for some reason, it's like culturally ingrained that you have to do what the authority figures say, not realizing that in a situation like that, you are the authority figure.
Yeah.
You have the right to tell them to fuck off.
Yep. Just like in anything else, even though you're under the Title 42 and you're a Class A CDL driver, you still have agency, and you still have the ability to you are the caretaker of those goods, and you have the right to say no. If you want to check my trailer, you want to do anything like that, you have to get a warrant. You know, you can't just open my truck. This is a private load. I'm hauling goods for a private company, and you need a warrant to get in my truck. You need a warrant to get in anything. You just like your house and your everything. They can't just get in your truck and check it for drugs, and
Well,
stuff like
that's
that.
one thing that's beautiful about MGTOW to me is learning how to take back your personal agency.
Yeah.
And being a truck driver, agency is a big thing that you gotta totally understand. Like I said, once that load is released to my care, it is my responsibility to get it there safely, on time, and intact.
Yep.
And if any weather situation comes up, I have the agency to call the company and say, I cannot get there on time. I can get it there intact, and I can get it there safely, but I can't get it there on time. That's the thing. You got to have the agency to take responsibility for, if I can't meet all the conditions, excuse me, then this is what I can do, and this is what I will do.
Yeah, I had the same thing happen to me. I actually fucked up a load of pickles. I had to go pick up a load of pickles from down in where was it, in Florida. I had to go have my truck washed out, and they put these pallets in my truck, and they didn't use any of the. I had the little deals that you put between your truck. I forget what they're called, like little jacks, that hold those from sliding around inside your truck. So they didn't put any of those in there.
Yeah, you're talking about load locks.
Yeah, load locks. I didn't have any of those. They didn't. I had them, but they didn't put them in. So they loaded up my truck with these pallets that were about 4.5 to 5 feet tall, and they were just pallets with cardboard around them, like a thick piece of cardboard that was maybe like a half an inch thick, and it was just like a ring. And then they just dumped it full of maybe 5,000 pounds of 5 or 10,000 pounds of cucumbers, and then I was supposed to drive those to Chicago, and I drove from Florida all the way to Kentucky, and then I was going to take a break, and I'd already been driving for 13 hours or something like that, and my boss told me, you have to keep driving because it has to be delivered by 8:30 in the morning or something, and this was 2 at night, and I'd already been driving since 11 in the morning, so I ended up driving straight through, and I was so tired when I got into Chicago. I was driving in rush hour traffic in the morning at 7 o'clock. Some bitch jumped in front of my truck, and I had to slam on the brakes, and I didn't have any load locks. So 3 of the pallets...
Your entire load shifted.
Yeah, 3 of the pallets fell forward. A bunch of the cucumbers broke, and I had to, when I pulled into the dock and they opened up the door, all of them had fallen forward, and they had to hire these 3 Mexican guys at and my company had to pay for it, but it was $15 or $20 an hour, and it took them 7 hours or something like that. So I was sitting there at the dock for 7 hours while they unloaded the truck and picked up all of the cucumbers and put them into this plant that was in Chicago that made pickles, Well,
now one thing guys are going to really need to understand is there are 2 words that you can use either together or separately that you can use now in modern day to trump anything your trucking company says to you. And those words are safe and legal.
Yeah. What I ended up doing after that,
one, both, or whatever, but yeah.
after that, what I ended up doing is I learned from a few of the older guys what I had to do, because if you get stopped by the police or if I would have ended up going through one of the port of entries and got stopped, I would have been fucked. But what I ended up having, these old guys told me to do is I stopped at a truck stop and I got one of those recording devices so that I could put it on my cell phone and record when my dispatcher told me to go over an hours, because then I could be pulled over by a police officer and I could play back what my dispatcher told me to do, and then it's not my fault. I had to do it because I was instructed to do it. I was told to do it, and it said on the tape why I was supposed to do it, that the load had to be delivered by such and such a time. And then you make sure when you're talking to them, telling them like, I started driving this load at 10 o'clock this morning. You didn't give me enough time to make the load and to get it there in time. Why did you do that? And now you're asking me to drive over in my hours to make it there because you made a mistake on how long it would take to get the load there. And you make sure you say shit like that so that it's on tape. And then when they say, yeah, I'm sorry, but you got to make that load there. You got to get it there, so just keep driving. And then as soon as you get pulled over, you play that shit back, and they call your company and tell them, what the fuck, dude? And then they get the fucking fine, not you. You know? So that was the first thing I did. That was
and plus, too... Huh?
How is the trucking industry in Japan?
It's completely different. They don't have shit like that here. People just drive and drive and drive. There's guys that fall asleep on the road all the time because for them it's about making money, and you get paid just the same. You know, Magnus will know about this. You get paid to drive. You don't get paid to sit. You know.
Yeah.
So the more you're driving, the more money you're making, and that's how they are here in Japan too. As long as you're driving,
over here you're paid by the mile. So you know. With my company, you start out at about 37 cents a mile, and the maximum speed on the company trucks is 62. So you can do some simple math, 62 times 0.37, and you have an idea roughly what you're making per hour.
Yeah.
But that's ideal conditions. I will warn you, that's ideal conditions. If you can do, I'll do it right quick. 62 times 0.37 is ideally you're making $22.94 an hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, but with me,
you can drive up to
it's
13 hours a day still, right?
Well, no, it's a 14-hour day, but
Okay.
that's 11 hours of drive time and 3 hours on top of that for, like your mandatory half-hour break, loading, unloading, and fueling. So that's 3 hours to do, work and odds and ends, and 11 hours worth of drive time. And you may or may not do the whole day's shift, depending on where you are.
Yeah, what you have to deliver.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that was the nice thing about owning my own truck. I wanted to own my own truck. I never did, but I remember like being able to pull into the Pilot's truck stops and seeing the screen that's up there in the waiting area where you can find a load, and you could just get loads and go pick them up and deliver them and make money. It's pretty cool. I don't know if they still do that. But that's how they used to have it.
Well, now I think there's like phone apps that kind of superseded that at this point. But now all your major companies, and I think they're trying to even make this for smaller companies too, is where you have electronic logs. So there's no way you can do it illegally unless you just hardcore fuck it up.
Yeah, well, that's the cool thing. When I was the first company that ever did that was Warner, and they were doing that through Qualcomm. And then I heard around the time that I got that I had to quit working because I lost my driver's license, they said Swift was picking it up too. But I would imagine that was, like I say, that was in October or November of 2004. So I would say by now it's been 11 years since then. I'm surprised every company doesn't have that, because the cool thing about that system was, if you forget to log out, there was all these different numbers and buttons you had to push to, like, say, like, I stopped for gas and I stopped to take a shower, and you just had these little things you'd put in, and it'd automatically mark it. So if you get in your, like, say you stop, you can go back later on and put that you just stopped for gas. But it will automatically, like, if you stop for more than 5 minutes, your truck, it will automatically log you out. And then if you start driving within 3 minutes of you starting to drive, it would log you back in and say that you're driving. And it would even keep track of where you're at. You know, it would say
on the one that I've got, Omnitrac's bought out Qualcomm, but they still call it the Qualcomm. But you know, you have to be on duty, off duty, or whatever for 5 minutes before it'll register. Like if you go on duty for 4 minutes and then change it to off duty, it shows that 4 minutes has been off duty instead of on duty. So there's a lot of nuance to it that you have to learn. But yeah.
Yeah, it was the same thing. I had this like little thing that I had in a pamphlet, and it was like a what do they call it? Like they had like plastic over it, and it just had like a bunch of different numbers, and you could just look on there, and it said like taking a shower, and it was like P25 or something. So you get on there and you just put P25, log out, and you're done. And that's what was really cool.
Now it's all touch screen, and it's like you can slide it up and have a little keyboard, and it's got a web browser and all kinds of shit on it. I mean, I've been in the trucking industry for at least 10 years, and the changes that I've seen happening are just like, wow. You know, because I remember, you know, I didn't have navigation back then. I had to write down the directions.
Me too.
And just go the ways that I knew. I had to go the ways that I knew to go. Yeah, I had to decide where, you know, and all they would tell me is, well, you're going to fuel here and here, and then I would have to make my route based on where I was fueling. So, it was...
I would have to ask on the
It was a lot tougher back then.
I'd have to ask my dispatcher. I'd be like, so where am I going to deliver to, and what am I picking up? And they would tell me. I would go pick it up, and then while I was sitting there picking up, I had a folder or like a manila envelope type thing, and I would have to write down what it was, where I was going, and then I'd have to get out my map, and I'd have to write down like what streets I'm taking, and that was how you had to do it. And then if I got lost, I would have to get on the Qualcomm, and I'd have to say like, I'm here, and they know from like your truck, they can tell, you know, where you're at within like 5 feet. So I would say, I'm here, where do I go to get to this place? I'm lost. And they would tell you like, you know, oh, you need to, you know, get on this highway, and I'd write all that down. And it was a bitch, man. Now that they got like fucking iPads and fucking iPhones and shit, you know, it would be a whole different system now. I would have had a real easy time.
So tell us more about
They got built-in GPS navigation on the Qualcomms now, and it's all touchscreen. You just put the address in for where you're going, and it'll bring it up, and you just take off and just follow the GPS.
Yeah.
So Shi-nu, how did you end up in Japan, going off away from the U.S. to Japan?
I went to college in '97 for music and psychology, and just like happens to everyone else, I was about 26 or 25. I think I was 25. I met my Japanese wife, and she convinced me to quit college. I started driving truck. I had a
Why did you quit? How did she convince you to do that?
She got pregnant.
Holy shit, man.
And I needed
the pussy game was strong with that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She was 31 and I was 25. She was older.
Holy shit, man. She robbed the cradle.
Yep. So she convinced me to stop going to college and start to work. So I got out of college, and I ended up paying $5,500 instead of paying for college. I paid for a trucking driver's license. So I drove truck for about a year and a half, and when my son turned 1 year old, it was about a week later we flew to Japan. So
to do what?
When I went over there, I was going to college to be a teacher. to be I did psychology and I did music. So she seen right away in Japan, like I say, you can make like, $5,000 teaching private lessons and like $3,000 getting a sponsor visa, you know. So you could teach English in Japan and you could make like $8,000 a month, you know. And since she's seen that I was going to college to do that, and I was also wanting to be a like a therapist for music therapy, for doing like mentally handicapped children. So she's seen I was like a really nice guy. I wanted to teach, so she's seen a money ticket, and she's seen like I could bring this guy back to Japan, and he'll like teaching, and he's a really nice guy that I can use, because she'd already been a nurse for like 12 years at the time, and so now she's still a nurse, and she was a subhead nurse once we moved back to Japan. But I moved back to Japan, and I ended up being a teacher, and I did that for about 6 months. Got tired of it, and then I started exporting cars, you know.
In Japan?
Yeah, I exported cars to New Zealand and Australia.
Wow.
So how long was it into your relationship before the pooty poo dried up?
I came back to Japan in July of 2000, and by the 2001, by the summer or fall, I would say we were having sex maybe once every 3 to 6 months.
So it was within a 2-year period. She went from me love you long time to what are you doing? Get that thing away from me.
Yep. Yeah. Every time I even put it close to her, she was like, I don't want to get pregnant, and blah, 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 all this kind of shit. And she wouldn't take birth control. She didn't want to take birth control. So that's kind of how she got me to stay away from her. Like, she just, like, every time I would act like I wanted to have sex with her, she'd be like, oh, I don't want to get pregnant. I don't want to get pregnant,
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I would know that. And that's when guys have to learn that you got to look her dead in the face and say, well, that ain't going to suck itself.
Yeah. Yeah. She's just she didn't understand what was going on,
So I've been studying
problem.
I've been studying the Japanese economy up. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I think that's the problem most women have, is they think that if they give you a little bit for a little while, then they've pretty much got you permanently, and it's like, yeah, no, a lot of guys aren't putting up with that shit anymore. Oh,
no way, man.
Yeah.
I've already experienced it. So, I've been studying the Japanese economy off and on for years. I mean, it seems like it's a mess over there. Like, everything's pretty expensive.
Yeah. It's not bad. It just depends. The thing is...
What city you go to, right?
Yeah. Everything's expensive if you don't know what you're doing. I mean, you can come here and you can live for like 1/3 the price of America if you know what you're doing. If you don't, you'll come over here and spend 10 times what you'd spend in America.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about something like that. I was thinking about South Central America, but maybe it would make more sense to go in a place like Japan, earn a bunch of money, and then maybe retire down there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would be...
Jesus Christ, really, man. There's so many different combinations.
Yeah, it's really easy for people to... like Magnus, you could easily come to Japan, teach like English for a year, and then go back to America and buy like $100,000 truck and be an over the road trucker and have your own truck, and it's something like that. Like, if you worked here for 2 years teaching English, you could go back to America and you could buy a house, you could start a company, you might have $150,000 saved up. It depends on how hard of a worker you are. If you want to work for, say, like a English school, and then you want to teach private lessons on the side, and then you teach more private lessons besides that, because some guys will be here for 6 months or a year and they learn pretty decent Japanese, and then they start doing stuff like translation, where they translate Japanese to English and English to Japanese, or they teach business classes. If you teach business classes, some of those guys pay $70 to $90 per hour.
Wow.
Damn.
So you can end up making, $10,000 $10,000-12,000 a month if you're a fucking hard worker.
Don't they wonder where? I mean, don't they wonder where that money's coming from in the bank if you're earning it under the table?
No, that's not something they care about here. They know there's like so much corrupt bullshit going on over here. They don't even care about any of that. So,
It's hard to believe, man.
Yeah, so
well, maybe you're right, but
you just throw them, and the money goes direct. They don't hand you cash here in Japan. It gets transferred from bank to bank. So like your company will pay you here in Japan, and they transfer the money from their bank to your bank. So a lot of times you'll just go to your bank and you'll be teaching classes, and that's what's cool. You don't even think about it. You just get money, you know.
But I mean, how does somebody pay you under the table then?
Then they'll pay you cash.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like it sounds to me like the way it could work. You could just stay single permanently doing that, and just get a little bit off the horny housewives, doing that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I got snipped 3 years ago, man. I'm wasting my time here. I got to go use this tool I got between my legs, man.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. A lot of guys don't realize you can get a visa to teach here in Japan and not even you can have a high school education. What they want is somebody that is a native English speaker.
Yeah.
That's mainly what they want. Now, if you have a college education, even more better. But you can get on these websites that I put up there, the Gaijin Pot and Kansai Flea Market and Kansai Scene, and you can find companies that want to hire you to come to Japan for 1 year and give you a visa. And while you're here, if you're really smart, you learn Japanese. If you study really hard and you learn some Japanese, you might be able to stay here for 2 or 3 years and just bounce around to different schools. Say if you get hired and you live in, say, Kyoto, you could live in Kyoto for a year, and then after you get done with Kyoto, you could transfer to a school and get sponsored visa and move to Tokyo. And then you could transfer from Tokyo and move to Okinawa. And you could just bounce around the country getting visas for 2 or 3 years, and then you could turn around and go back to your home country, and you might have, like I say, $150,000, $200,000 saved up in the bank, because all you're doing is paying for food and whatever you might want to do. Maybe you want to go see some movies or go out to, karaoke or something like that, and you can. That's really all you have to pay for, So everything else is paid for. Like I say, if you travel around in the city you're in, they give you a 1 month paid bus card, and you get it renewed every month. So
the company does, eh?
They actually do that for you, so you don't even have to pay for that. So it's all free. So you can just kind of go around the city. You got a bus card, you got a train card, so you just kind of, on your days off, you can go do whatever the fuck you want, and you don't even have to pay for it.
And plus, I don't think it would be a very hard thing to take a trip out to the beach either.
No. Yeah. Like for me, it's like I say, like I can get on my bike, and in like 10 minutes I can ride out to the beach.
Yeah, what's your name is again? Shi-nu. Yeah, I might hit you up for a conversation later. Maybe we could record it just to show other guys. But yeah, I've been to Korea already, so I've been to Japan too. So I'm thinking about doing something like that, man. It's fucked up. The economy all over this place is screwed up. But in Canada,
it's fucked up here too. But it's fucked up for Japanese people.
Yes.
For foreigners, we're kind of out of the loop. Like if you didn't grow up here and you're not into the normal culture, like ending up in a office position, that kind of thing.
You're in a higher class.
Yeah, I'm basically a teacher. I teach at a college. So
and the students there probably love you, right? I mean, they have a whole different view of education there, right? And especially in Korea.
Yeah. If you're a teacher and stuff, they say sensei, but you're sensei because you're thought of the same way as a doctor. They call a doctor here sensei. So you're very high on the totem pole, So it's kind of cool,
When do they hire though? Like in June?
Do it, but I'm gonna have to take off because I'm gonna try to get some stuff done before my hangout later tonight. But
okay, so whose hangout was this? Was this Shi-nu's or Magnus?
It's mine. I do this one every week. I'll probably do it around 11 o'clock every week, and it's called the Round Table.
Holy shit! Oh, that's awesome then. That's great. So okay.
Well, Shi-nu, if you're going to be around, it's going to be about 6 hours and 10 minutes from now. Mine's going to start. So if you want to pop in on that one, feel free.
Yeah, it's 1:50 a.m. here right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
easy, buddy.
Yeah, so yours happens at my time is around 8 a.m.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I said if you're available, feel free to pop in. But
Yeah.
I know you're probably going to be ass deep and staring at the back of your eyelids for about 8 hours.
Yeah. After this, I'm probably gonna go to bed, and then I'll see. Maybe I'll get up. It depends on how. I might be late, or I might actually get there on 8. Just depends on when my eyes open.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, gents. Well, I'll catch you later.
See you, Magnus.
All
Yeah,
right.
Shinju, if you can chat for another, I don't know. I know it's late there. So
Yeah.
you're probably only what 10 minutes.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm thinking about it. I've been in Korea. I worked in different cities in Canada in IT. Mostly, what's happening now in IT is that it's all turning into call centers. Not even IT. It's any desk job really now, and it's that's what's happening really. Largely is everything is being turned into a call center basically. So
Yeah.
the economy is just so screwed up, and so I was thinking about going to Central America. I was in Guatemala for 6 weeks last year as a business trip / vacation.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about doing ICT stuff down there because I can offer the services cheaper. But I'm thinking to myself, they might not have too great of a system there right now. And
Well, if you go to that gaijinpot.com, they actually have jobs there. I've actually been looking for more work, and they've actually got a bunch of IT jobs that are popping up. So you could actually get work, and all they say is they want you to be a native English speaker.
Yeah, hey, you never know, eh? I mean, shit.
Yeah.
I wonder you could even do that remotely from Canada or somewhere else.
Maybe there's some jobs that say there's some I've seen that have said they wanted people to do remotely through the computer for Korea and Japan at the same time. Like they have a company that's in Japan and Korea too.
Well, that's an interesting proposition. So yeah, maybe next time we can chat about that, your experiences in the working world. Because I tried to have a hangout to do with working world and economics, things like that. And, that kind of stuff might be too highbrow for some guys. So I try to aim at just called like a working world type hangout. So maybe we can have something like that next week. Maybe you can advertise it like that because you might have probably have more pull than I do. You might have been doing this for longer than I have.
Yeah. Well, I've been teaching since like 95. I've been teaching music since 1990, but I've been teaching like professionally since like 95. So it's been 20 years that I've been teaching professionally.
That's cool, man. Yeah, you never know. I mean, I love the way the women treated me in Korea, and I'm sure Japan is similar. So
yeah, it is for foreigners. The thing
obviously we're like a novelty there.
Yeah, the thing that you'll find here is that most of the women won't want to take you home to meet their family. You're just
they just want to fuck.
Yeah. We call them. A lot of people here in Japan, they don't like the saying because it's kind of feminist bullshit, how they are. But they call them yellow cabs, And they say that because everybody's had a ride, All you got so if you go to a bar in Japan, if you go to like a big bar with like lots of Japanese girls there, especially if it's a foreigner bar, a lot of those girls will want to hang out with foreign men, and they don't want to date you. They just want to fuck you. So in most cases, most of these bars are around like what they call love hotels. So they'll like take you. They'll literally. You got to kind of watch out because some of these girls are like girls that are looking for gaijin boyfriends. They like tag off of gaijin boyfriends. So they'll actually literally take you from the club to the love hotel and fuck you, and then come back to the club and look for another guy to date. And they'll do that like
Why do they do that?
Because they're sluts. They'll do that like 3 or 4 times in one night. So you might be banging some chick that's already banged 2 other guys.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So that's why I'm herbivore and I'm MGTOW, so I don't even deal with that kind of shit. I'm not worried about it. That's not something I want to deal with. You know?
Holy fuck.
But there's a lot of guys like that. You know.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Because the little Japanese wieners there must be like 3 inches long.
Yeah. We have a saying here. Most of the English teachers, we always say like this: "Pinky swear." Yeah, if you watch Japanese pornos, you'll see like the girl they'll have the dick like this. You'll see them with their mouth there, and they'll be barely moving it up and down, and you'll be like, you know.
That's hilarious because I did date a Korean chick and she just whipped mine out and she's like, so yeah, I mean, Korean chicks love fucking foreigners, white guys,
Yeah.
especially.
Japanese girls do too because, like I say, they don't have little tiny dicks. You know. Yeah.
So, oh my god, that's amazing. You know, this is such a big world now because of the internet and everything. It's no wonder people are losing their minds.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for the chat, and you know, yeah, if you